Gaming news today is all about strange developments. First, PlayStation had an earnings call, and while basically every single result shows very good and strong for the company and the brand, there are some strange things coming out of it, and one of those being that there's an apparent Bungie takeover that many of us predicted a while ago, but also there were remarks about moving away from a hardware-centric model to a platform model, and many are asking, well, what does this mean for the future of PlayStation as well as Sony at large? We're going to discuss that and look at the larger context and not just one particular sentence to try to figure out what in the world this means for the future of PlayStation and its hardware and its games. Now, second, if you were looking forward to the game called Contraband, I don't have great news for you. It has been put on hold. Many are saying that it's likely canceled. Now, we're going to see if we can get any more details about what this means for that studio. They're not actually an Xbox studio. Xbox was publishing it, but there was another game that Xbox was publishing, and once the funding was gone, the studio closed down. So I don't know what's going to happen to Avalanche. We'll try to do a bit of a deeper dive there. Third, Mafia The Old Country review scores are here. They're not that great. We're going to look at a strange thing with the review scores as well, like where they're landing. They're not landing everywhere. They're only really on PC. Not really sure what's going on there. We are going to check out gameplay today on my PS5 Pro. Now, what I've been doing is about an hour into the show, I go through all these stories and all these segments. So if you're watching this later, look for the timestamp. If the timestamp's not there, leave a comment and say, hey, Lono, you forgot to do the timestamps. I try to be good about that, but sometimes when I go from the talk show to gameplay, I can forget to do that. So be sure to remind me to do that. Also, we are still continuing to do our member goals. Now more than ever, we need folks to consider paying for their own membership. We discovered a bit of a snafu within how memberships are calculated, something I was unaware of the last 8 months, which is extremely unfortunate, but people are still very generously supporting the channel. There's a tip command in the chat. I may end up adding that to the description of these videos below if you want to do that, if you want to support the channel directly with a tip right there through that. You can do super thanks on YouTube and super chats as well. That also really helps. And we might start setting goals around that because I still want to give back. I still want to gift members, but unfortunately with currency differences across the globe, I just can't be confident and know how much we're actually getting when someone gifts a bunch of members. So it's unfortunate. We're going to adapt. We're going to adjust as we always do when these landscape things happen with the platforms. So if you're watching this later, make sure you hit the like button. Subscribing is totally free, so hit subscribe, hit the bell button, especially if you want to be here for these conversations. And yeah, we got a lot to discuss, chat. So shorter show opens again, just so we can kind of get to the meat of it. And do me a favor, hit that like button. Try to get us to our first 100 likes. And Han shot first, and so did you. Thank you so much for the first gifted member of the day, Joker Quinn, coming in. Thank you so much. The big goals are still going to be there. We're still going to do things to celebrate when we hit really big milestones. We still want to pay it forward and get more people in the member pool, which is one of the reasons why we need folks to start picking up those Member Plus memberships for $6 a month to make room for others. Somebody's saying, can we admit that PlayStation and Xbox both lost the console wars? Both are equally terrible. I mean, I don't agree with that at all. I don't know how anybody could claim they're equally terrible. I don't see what's so terrible about PlayStation this gen. I feel like they've done a very good job. I think the financials speak to how well they've done with market saturation, MAUs, sales of games, quality of their games. We added up their exclusives the other day just for this gen. It's somewhere between 3 and 4 exclusives a year is what they're averaging, which I think is quite good. So I don't agree with that. I don't know why you would think that that's like a huge problem. How many games PC put out this gen? Quite a lot, actually. If you look at all of their publishing efforts, as well as their exclusive efforts, as well as their own studios, they've actually done a really good job. The fixation on first-party studios, I believe, is a complete miscalculation as a consumer because they've never done that. They've never had this insane flood of first-party PlayStation studios delivering games at a consistent basis. That's been a complete falsehood that people have peddled. We had somebody in here doing it the other day, and they were like, oh, we got so many more games back in the day. We went and looked, and almost all the games they listed were games that they were not first-party studios at the time. They were merely published or exclusive deals, and PlayStation brought those games to you. they're doing the same thing now. They have second-party relationships and third-party relationships where they're bringing games to you. Their spending efforts, I think, have done, great things for anybody who owns a PlayStation this gen. Again, if you fixate on just the first-party PlayStation studios and you believe the lie that, in the past they used to bring us first-party PlayStation studio games all the time, if you believe that lie, you can act like this has been a terrible generation. But the fact of the matter is, even the previous generation functioned that way. You were primarily getting second and third party exclusives, second and third party publishing efforts from PlayStation, and sprinkled within there were first party studio games. And a lot of those games that were one time just a publishing effort or a second party relationship are now first party studios, but at the time they were not. As I've said very many times, if Stellar Blade wouldn't have just been published by PlayStation, but they would have purchased Shift Up, would that have changed the quality of the game? I don't think so. I think people believe in like myth and legend and falsehood about this alleged time before where we were just, every other month you were getting a PlayStation Studios game, which there has never been a time where that's the case. Historically speaking, it has always been this way. They have always had their sales charts and their calendar dominated by third and second party, not by their own studios. It has always been this way. So arguing against that ideal, I think you're setting yourself up to never be happy because you're asking for something that they've never done. You're asking for some expectation that they never set. They never came out and said, you're going to be getting first-party PlayStation Studios games 3 and 4 times a year. And they never did that in the past either. So there's no, pattern of behavior from PlayStation that set that expectation. What has set that expectation, I believe, is bad faith coverage of the gaming industry from people who continue to claim things are negatives because they have a bent and an intention to paint a company in a bad light. It's not based on facts. It's not based on market analysis. It's literally based on some fake thing that happened. I'm not seeing frames drop at all, Hilly. If it's happening just to you, nobody else is saying anything over there on purple. No, GTA 6 has not been... I'm muted. Hang on. Sorry, I was muted in Discord. If it wasn't for the game as service galore failure, we would have had even more games. I will always agree with that. Hang on, I got to thank a super chat. A $5 super chat from Glassdoor Gaming says, people like reading into quotes without context. A lot of Xbox fans are hoping PlayStation goes down the same road in strategy in order to cope. I feel like that's behind a lot of this. I looked at the comments. I looked at the translation. I have somebody else that speaks Japanese that was talking to me about this, and they said that the translation that people are going with, it could go one of two ways, but I also think people are misunderstanding exactly what they mean. I also have some quotes from the company about the shift to focusing on MAU that I think will be very illuminating for you guys. I don't think people are looking at the big picture. If I were to diagnose the general problem with a lot of the coverage and the reaction and the tweets that I'm seeing, people don't understand that every time something like this happens, it's not either or, it can be both and. They create what's called a false dichotomy or a false binary, where it's either this or it's this. So they're either doing hardware or they don't care about hardware. Right? So, in that regard, in this situation, I don't think I heard or read anything from the earnings call, this quote. I don't think I read or heard anything that was like a repudiation of what Nishino, the guy actually in charge of PlayStation, what he said like 40 days ago, or what Herman Holst said 40 days ago. I don't believe these strategies are in conflict. I believe they're all part of the same idea. Because again, none of what was said yesterday is actually new. These are things they have literally said before. There's no smoking gun here, because I told you guys, I said, we're going to hear about change from the earnings calls. Always go to the earnings calls. And everything that senior vice president said, it was like, yeah, these are things they've said before. These are things they've commented on before. Nishino said, I think we'll have hardware for a while. That quote always seemed off to me. Well, because you'll never, ever find an executive who casts an eternal vision. You can't be like, hardware will be around for forever. You can't say that because, like, you've got to be careful, especially when you're speaking in, like, a Q&A or an earnings call or even their fireside chat. You can't be like, oh, no, yeah, we're going to do this for forever. You have to be like, oh, yeah, well, this will be around for a while. And be like, I've noticed that with C-suite and executives all the time when they speak on these things. There's always that conditional clause in the phrasing to be like, this is not an eternal thing. There could always be a shift, a change, a brand new development. You never know. Like, fast forward in 30 years, cloud infrastructure could be incredible. Internet infrastructure could be incredible. There could be breakthroughs in the actual technology that gives you better up and down speeds so that cloud gaming, you're getting like insane fidelity and there's like zero lag or latency. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there could be plenty of breakthroughs that could completely change that entire landscape of demand for a product. We've seen this happen with demand for digital cameras, demand for CDs, cassettes, all sorts of things. So you always have to kind of make sure it's like, well, yeah, the entire landscape of this technology could change in an instant. And then all of a sudden hardware would be less necessary as an actual purchase by the consumer. You would then be in the business of getting them to subscribe to some sort of like cloud-based something. I think that's what Microsoft's betting on. I think they're betting on those breakthroughs. They're betting on cloud becoming more prominent. Currently, I would even say in my lifetime, I don't think cloud's going to become prominent enough for me to primarily game there. My kids or maybe my grandkids, I could see being like, Grandpa, why did you use hardware? Like, we just use the internet. Because if the internet gets faster and faster and faster and the cloud technology gets better and better and better, there obviously could be a future where hardware is just not necessary. I mean, you're still using hardware. You would be connecting to like really, really strong, server stacks or whatever. xCloud is the future. I don't know about xCloud. I think that's what Microsoft is betting on. I think they're betting on that future reality where the real landscape and the real frontier that they're fighting on is cloud. I think they have like a longer vision on this. It's because of their investment and how much money they make from their Azure services. Most of their money's B2B, right? So like that's why if someone says, oh yeah, hardware will be around for a while, it's because there could be a future where they shift their focus into, and again, that could be 30 years from now. Like, nobody knew what was going to happen with like the music industry, streaming services no longer needing like CDs, right? Because there was never really a form factor after CDs. We went from like beta records, LPs, to cassettes, to CDs, and then it just kind of stops. Just kind of vanishes. Imagine being one of the companies where one of your primary means of money was making CDs or burnable CDs. Sneaky Wolf with a $5 super chat says, plot twist, the shift isn't about Xbox, it's about the Switch 2. You think that what was said, they're looking to expand their property onto the Switch 2? You think that's their target? Cloud is also hardware. It is, but my point is that Siriu, if you shifted into, let's say 30 years from now, PlayStation's like, listen, with these cloud breakthroughs, it's a lot easier to get people into our platform by getting them to sign up for our cloud services than selling them a $700 piece of equipment. So in 30 years, that would be a shift away from hardware. They wouldn't be like, oh, we're making our hardware and selling our hardware, and that's the centrality of the business. It would, no, we have hardware. We have studios building amazing games, but the way of getting consumers could shift and change. That's why you're never going to find anybody talking to shareholders or Q&A and acting like, oh, no, yeah, we're always going to do this. We're never going to stop doing hardware, or we're never going to stop focusing on hardware. They would never use that type of language because, number one, that would make shareholders uneasy. They would be like, who talks like that? Why would you say forever? Or why would you cast that eternal vision for anything? Because they understand as good as anybody that markets can shift, because that's quite literally how they make their money, is by analyzing markets and making decisions about investments based on those things. So they're never going to be compelled by some C-suite employee saying, oh yeah, we're always going to be doing this thing, or we're always going to be building this thing. I think a shareholder would get a little skittish when they hear that, because you'd be like, well, that seems a little overstated. Jack Garland with the $5 super chat. Lona, imagine being able to time travel to a day where you can comfortably play Sekiro on cloud. How far do you think you would have to go? Thank you, DeGrains, for a Member Plus renewal. I would say, again, I don't think it's the cloud technology per se that's the problem. I would imagine in the next 5 years, the cloud stuff's going to get way better. It's always going to come down to the internet infrastructure. Like, I got fiber in my house this year in April. It's life-changing for what I do for a living. Life-changing. I can hit record right now, record an entire segment, and just upload it to YouTube, and it doesn't mess with my broadcast at all. Like, that level of speed, that level of stability, it's like life-changing when you're a live streamer and you need to upload or record or something, like, right? So here's the thing. If that level of technology and fiber and all that can become way more common, you would then find cloud being able to leverage things that presently is a challenge. Because if you're on cable and you're in one of those older neighborhoods where it's been oversold and it's these old copper lines, brother, you're never going to be able to get a good enough connection to really enjoy cloud gaming. Latency is physics. You can't overcome this. Well, sure, but again, with AI and machine learning, Paul, I have a lot of confidence that they're going to get better at that sort of thing, where if there is latency or lag, you've got the fastest possible internet, you got fiber, right? And the cloud's really, really good. There could be new technology developed to make lag almost not even noticeable. I don't think that's happening in my time in gaming. In my time in gaming, I think you're still going to be centered around hardware that you purchase, whether you buy a Switch or a PlayStation or a PC. If you're wanting to game and you're wanting to play the newest, greatest, best-looking games, you're going to be buying hardware to put into your home. I firmly believe that. I do not think cloud has the ability to tip those scales. Not fast enough. Again, my grandchildren, maybe. They could be playing, I come over to see my grandkids for Christmas, and they could be playing games with not a box in sight. They could just have internet that's so fast and cloud's gotten so good, and they're just playing, and they don't even think about like owning a box. The same way that my kids don't even think about television the way that I did growing up. Like when I was growing up, you had to watch television when it happened. My kids push 2 buttons and are watching Bluey, any episode they want. That reality shift happened within my lifetime for my kids. I think you could see similar things happen with cloud. I do. But I don't think it's happening anytime soon. I think hardware is still too intrinsic to what we do. The investments into, AMD with PlayStation, the things that NVIDIA is coming up with, I don't think any of this is going away, especially we still largely think about that. Like we have a cell phone, we have tablets, we have televisions. I don't think you're going to be able to dislodge that from the consumer base fast enough to get people accustomed to well, I don't have anything. Yeah, I just plug my TV into the internet. Sooner that, maybe your kids will game on cloud. I'm talking about only gaming on the cloud, FCAT. I think certainly my kids will game on the cloud, but I don't think that'll be the primary place they game. I still think my kiddos, all the way into adulthood, are going to have hardware that they engage with. They'll also play on the cloud. I think by the time my grandkids are in the picture and they're old enough to play video games, you could certainly see, so that would be when I'm in my 70s and my 80s, you could certainly see those kiddos just thinking, well, no, you don't buy a box like that. But that's how long I think that would take. I don't think you're going to get the infrastructure of the internet to a place where it would sustain it. And I don't think people will like it. I think if you have a couple of bad experiences, people would turn their nose up to it. And it doesn't take much. You get bad routing to the server and you're not going to get, great results. Hang on, Sneaky. I'll check what you said, but I got to thank this. This is a massive, massive super chat from Space Jockey. Thank you so much. Hi, Lono. I don't interact much, but I'm always here. You're worth every Canadian dollar I invested and even more. From what I understand yesterday, you gave us too much. Take a break, man. Here's some tip for your awesome work. I really appreciate that. Guys, the Cliff's Notes from yesterday is if you're in certain countries with certain currency, you can gift members, and I don't know how much US dollars I'm getting from that. And there are certain countries and certain currencies where you can go crazy, and I get like $1 per member or something. So instead of seeing like, 100 members, wow, that's a pretty nice chunk, right? That's somewhere in the 400s. It's like $100, like a fourth of what I'm supposed to get. So unfortunately, the last 8 months, I was really hurting myself financially. I did not know that was the reality. It was completely out of the frame. I was trying to be a good YouTuber, and I wasn't obsessively checking my metrics and my money because that'll mess you up as a consumer. But based on the members we've been getting and what I'm actually being paid this year, it was somewhere between 15 and 20 grand short, which is why I was very alarmed when I looked at it. And you also have to consider I'm getting shorted when I look at the metrics according to like members, and then I was actively giving back a lot. So you got to think about it. Somebody's pushing the number really high, really fast of members, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I feel like I'm celebrating and giving back. What I'm actually doing is I'm getting tons of members at a crazy, crazy low US dollar amount cost from the person gifting. So then I end up putting myself in the red by gifting back. It's really unfortunate that happened. So if you feel like you want to help with what has transpired the last 8 months, the best course of action is to use the tip command in both chats. And that's a way for you to support directly to me. Or you can super chat. You can do super chats. You can still do gifteds. Everything helps. The biggest thing right now is what Geo Call just did. He signed up for Member Plus. That is the biggest thing we need right now, is we need to grow that base of people. At some level, if everybody shifted their gifting support to super chats and we started focusing on that, and then I was able to give back out of that, we might get more people saying, hey, I'll sign up for a membership, because if the gifting dries up, maybe more people will be compelled to get their own membership. Because we've been getting thousands upon thousands of members at basically like pennies on the dollar. Like, it's been very bad, honestly. And nobody knew. I think everybody was just celebrating and being generous. I don't think anything happening was malicious. Just really unfortunate turn of events. And maybe I should have been paying more attention to the money, but you're kind of not supposed to do that as a YouTuber, because it'll make you crazy and it'll get in your head and it'll mess with the content, because there's highs and lows. Yeah. So, anyways, thank you, Eugene, for 47 months in a VIP. He says, not all gatekeeping is bad. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but thank you so much, Eugene. I greatly appreciate it. Welcome back. So, yeah. I use a tip command on mobile. You just type !tip. Anyways, that's why Space Jockey was saying that and super chatting such a large amount, because some people were like kind of rising to the call and saying, oh my gosh, this guy lost a ton of money because of this, and I didn't know it. It stinks, but it's nobody's fault other than, I would say, YouTube does not give us enough control over these things. Like, I should be able to go check a button and just say, I would like gifting to be always requiring the actual US dollar amount, so then I know exactly where I stand, instead of being in the dark. So for 48 hours, I have no idea. Like, let's say somebody comes in right now and goes crazy and gifts like 200 members. I don't know for 48 hours how much I actually got from that. I can't like have like a reliable metric of being like, oh, that's really great, that was really supportive, let me give back right now. I don't have the ability to do that, sadly. I have a tip also, turn off crossplay on Battlefield 6. Yo, Donnie, thank you for 3 months. I saw you and Hilly going back and forth on Twitter about that, and I wonder if that's why I was getting in such sweatbox, places, because think about it. Hilly joined me for the second game, and I believe he was on PC. Hilly, what were you playing on? I wonder if him joining me pulled me into lobbies where I was getting a lot of the PC boys. Because, man, those lobbies were sweaty. I was like, this is terrible. I was like, I don't want to play this. I'm just dying constantly. It probably did. I wondered if turning off crossplay and only playing with the console boys would make it a bit more fun, because that was not fun. Hilly says yes, and it crashed my ping and pulled you into the war. Yeah. Oh, I wonder if you mess with my region as well, because I did feel like hit detection got really weird in the second game. I was like, man, I feel like I'm shooting blanks. Pause. Thank you, Super Googly, for a super chat. Surprisingly, Wu Chang has become my favorite Souls-like outside of From Software games, even surpassing Liza P. Really? I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm really enjoying First Berserker Kazan. I got in a fight last night, against a guy named Scalpel. That fight, even on beginner, it's a tough one, because it actually has a second phase. Eugene says, if you switch focus to super chats and less members, that gatekeeps the content more, and not all gatekeeping is bad. Right. I do think it could maybe increase the value of members-only content. I also think I need to have a conversation with Creature, since it's been almost impossible to get conversions, and since YouTube treats members-only content really stupidly right now. Like, even though we're unlisting the members-only content, it's still getting thousands of impressions, which is very contradictory and not helpful for me. When I have a live broadcast and an upload sitting on my channel that I want people to watch, putting my members-only content in front of thousands of people is absolutely stupid. It makes me want to move the content somewhere else, which I'm not going to. But it's like, Jiminy Christmas, YouTube, you've got to give us control over this stuff. You're killing me here. Scalpel's definitely one of the best bosses I've seen in a while. It was really fun once I figured out some of his patterns, because he had an attack that would like juggle you, and you'd feel almost like stun locked, the one where he'd like hit the ground and then the stuff would come up. He would get me with the first one, and I couldn't get out of it. He would just almost like juggle me like a fighting game. After I figured that out, I was good. I was like, this is a really fun fight. New channel confirmed. No, it's such a bummer, because people have so heavily invested in their memberships on this channel, and YouTube has made making members-only content extremely counterproductive. It's extremely counterproductive. Like, I just need a box. YouTube just needs to give me a box that says, only show this content to my members. Like, I don't need it shown to non-members. It's unhelpful. It is unhelpful. I need my uploads and my live shows to be doing that. That's the content. That's the thing that's kind of going out there and trying to meet new subscribers. Not a segment called Green Room. Like, what? It is so frustrating, chat. It's very frustrating. I don't want to fixate on it today, but my gosh, have they made what I do very difficult, because we centered so much around the brand and the value around being a member, gifting members, and having members-only content. And all those things have been somewhat sabotaged the last 8 months and are hurting us. And it's really unfortunate, because it's like you're motivating me to not do it. It's like, what am I supposed to do? You know? So we'll think of something. We will come up with a solution. If you guys have ideas, if you see other people, leveraging members-only content in a good way, give us those ideas. We're open to suggestions, because right now, the channel would behave better if we stopped doing it, and I don't want to do that. But it's like, they're not giving me enough control. So, anyway, we're about 30 minutes into the show, so make sure you guys are hitting the like button. There's a lot to discuss. PlayStation as a company has this earnings call, and they didn't just talk about like, hey, our future plans here, we're leaning into creation, we're leaning into like leveraging IP, we're leaning into more platform versus hardware centric. They also spoke on Bungie, and I put out a short yesterday, and it was like, it sounds like they're getting ready to take over Bungie. Like, big time. Might have to do a video on that. Might have to actually like do a deep dive into what that could mean. But what's the takeaway from the strat shift? As far as I can tell, it's not an either or is what people are trying to make it. They're trying to make it an either or. It's a both and. It's also phrasing they've said before. It's not, I don't think it's what people are making it out to be. I don't. I don't think this is like some smoking gun of like, yep, here they go, full slate, full third party. All their companies are going to be doing parallel development. Exclusives are dead. Sony's dead. I really want you to think about something. They posted fantastic revenue and growth across pretty much every sector of what they've been doing in gaming. What got them there, I don't think they're going to abandon. Why? Because it's how they make most of their money. And not 40 days ago, Nishino and Herman Holst really emphasized they're not changing strategy. They're very pleased with the way things are going. They're going to continue doing things the way that they've been doing them. And then you get an earnings call where like everything is good. Everything's in the green. Everything's going up. To turn around and be like, yeah, we're abandoning all of that. I really feel like you would have seen shareholders respond to that rather negatively. Like, you can go to Twitter and you can get like really quick reactions from people who are pretty thoughtless and don't understand the business world. That I'm talking about the shareholders. I think the shareholders would have responded rather negatively if they were interpreting the comments the way that Twitter is. Like the way that gaming Twitter is interpreting these comments. I think that would scare shareholders. Hey, thank you so much. Somebody tipped here through that, man, a $50 tip from Raphael. Thank you so much. When you guys do that, I appreciate it. Raphael says, thanks, man, for all your content. Guys, that is a huge way to help kind of what, the unfortunate thing that happened with the thing we discovered yesterday. I appreciate that. I got it, Raphael. Thank you. Let me know when you guys use that tip command so I can read your remarks. I don't really get an alert. We also got a $10 super chat. Thanks, bro, for your hard work. So you're super chatting and you're tipping through the thing. Like that's super nice. Thank you so much. So PlayStation doesn't have as much to offer as PC, Xbox without exclusives. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think. Remember how specifically the Xbox CFO spoke? He said, like, we're going to change our strategy and start putting our first-party stuff on other places. And it was like, wow. He even said on platforms that were formerly considered competitors, right? He said himself they're moving away from being console-centered. That's not what he said. He said they're moving away from being hardware-centric. He was speaking broadly in a variety of things. He wasn't just, he didn't say console. He didn't use the word console. They also said 8 years ago that they were going to start focusing more on monthly active users, which is something they just said recently as well. They entered the second half of this gen and they said it's less about the console now, it's more about the monthly active users. Some of this is indicative of us being halfway through a gen. We're halfway through the gen, and they're like, listen, you got to focus on MAUs. You got to focus on them. Like, look at this statement here. All right. This is from 8 years ago, and we were at a similar time in the life of the gen. Very similar time. So in 2017, you're entering the last 3 years of the gen, and this is what they say about their platform. They say, now it has shifted to a direct-to-consumer model. Hardware is important, but rather than hardware, the number of users is getting more important. Monthly active users, PS Plus subscriber numbers, and also how much time are they putting in using the console. So you have to see that this is a normal thing for them to do. You get halfway through the gen and you're like, all right, we're shifting our focus to MAU. We're shifting our focus to creation. They're shifting their focus to platform mentality. Because that's what it's about now. It's about, they said this 8 years ago. They get halfway through the gen, and they're like, all right, it's time to focus on MAUs. It's time to focus on, I think what was said the last time this came up, I think it was like 4 months ago, they said it's time to start making more money per user. Like, you want each individual user spending more money. I don't think what he said was them saying, yeah, we're done with hardware. We don't care about hardware anymore. All that matters now is putting our games in all these different places. Look at the market, how everyone else has increased MAU. There's your answer of what is going to happen. Well, I don't agree. No. Because what you're saying would mean that PlayStation is going to start going and buying really huge conglomerates of companies to increase their MAU. Xbox did not increase its MAU simply by putting their games in more places. They bought some of the biggest property, and then immediately you get to count that in your MAU numbers. So when they bought Minecraft, now that they own Call of Duty, now that they own Candy Crush, I don't think that that's indicative of what the market's going to do. I don't think PlayStation's going to go out and start buying all these companies to be like, oh, we need to increase our MAU, and that's the best way to do it. They seem to be far more focused in their spending. They like to purchase IPs. They like to purchase licenses. They're working with Bandai. They talk about Bandai in the very section of this quote. You keep saying, I think. That's the point. Nobody knows for sure. That's the issue. Well, then let's not talk about it. Let's all go home, Jay Shep, because nobody knows for sure, and this is all a waste of time. I mean, what you're saying is pointless. Your observation doesn't add to the discussion at all. Well, since nobody knows for sure that tomorrow the Earth won't blow up, brother. We still have conversations about the future. Jiminy Christmas. Like, non-contributing statement of the year. Yeah, nobody knows for sure what any of this stuff means, but we can make observations about PlayStation's investment with AMD, PlayStation's investment with Project Amethyst, PlayStation's investment in the hardware that just got leaked by Moore's Law is dead. That clearly shows that they're invested in hardware. A hardware company saying they're shifting focus to creation, saying they're shifting focus to more platform, you understand that if they shifted away from hardware, they would no longer be a hardware company, and their shareholders would be very concerned. In the article, he says, in the gaming business, we're moving away from a hardware-centric business model more to a platform business. Keyword there is platform. Did you see how he described what that means, Chris? Because that's what everybody keeps using. Did you see the rest of the context? Everybody keeps fixating on that. Did you see how he elaborated by what he meant? What did he mean by platform? You tell me. You tell me. Because the actual translation that everybody's using is from someone on Twitter. That's what the translation is coming from. Eugene says he's going to wait for official transcripts. We've been here before. The translation of what he said is literally right now a person on Twitter. That's what we have. And his statements after seemingly elaborate on what he means by platform. There are more statements. Did you see the rest of the tweet thread from the guy who translated it? Let me show you. So Genki, the one who translated this, okay? This is the source of all of this right here. This tweet with 1 million views. Okay? So, in the gaming business, we are moving away from a hardware-centric business model more to a platform business that expands the community and increases engagement. All right? He elaborates. He says overall, Sony are making a shift to creation as a company, as the 3 segments of games, music, and pictures make up 60% of Sony's total revenue. For example, shifting from output devices like TV and to creation devices like digital cameras. Also, things like music streaming, music catalogs, Crunchyroll, and teaming up with Bandai Namco to create new entertainment and IP. In the gaming business, the shift towards a platform business is increasing. He says they are transitioning to entertainment creation to expand and to improve stability and profitability. Do you see what's happening here? He's expanding on what he means. Does it sound like he's talking about a publisher strategy on other platforms? Or does it sound like he's talking about we are trying to go a creation route to expand engagement, to expand our quote-unquote platform? So you have to understand that when someone uses a word within their cultural context, it might not have all the baggage that you think that it has. He expands right here on what he's saying, and he's not at all indicating, oh yeah, we're shifting from hardware into like a publisher role. We want to kind of publish games everywhere. That's how people are interpreting what he said. When you actually read the elaboration of what he's talking about going into a creation route. so that their platform, their actual like media platform, increases and grows, as he gives evidence with the Bandai Namco to create new entertainment and IP. You also have to consider TV shows. They're leveraging that as well. They view that as expanding their platform. So do you see how if all you do is read this sentence, you could really, really come to some terrible conclusions and fly off the deep end and go super doomer. And you're like, oh my gosh, they don't care about hardware anymore. They're going to become a publisher, right? Because he talks right here. They want to do a platform business. Why? They want to expand the community and increase engagement. Oh, how are you going to do that? He elaborates right here. The 6-month thing came from Detective Seeds. Furthermore, for further context, the question that was asked from the media was that Sony are aggressively investing in IP content creation, such as investing in Bandai Namco. How do they evaluate those investment results so far, and is there a specific investment that caused them to revise their forecast upwards? The answer talked about the overall strategy for Sony shifting focus to creation, and with the games business shift more focus to the platform business. Do you see? The question wasn't even like, hey, are you guys going to start like publishing your games everywhere? Like, what about the hardware? What about the hardware? The question was quite literally about aggressively investing in IP content creation, such as Bandai Namco. And that's where this statement that he made, that's the context that it lives in. Do you understand how this is not him doing some sort of weird 40-day later repudiation of what Nishino and Herman Hulst said? Do you see the context? Did anybody that you watched read all this? Did anybody tweeting about this read all this? Did anybody making videos read all of this? Did they? See, the question that you should be asking isn't, oh my gosh, is Sony abandoning hardware? Oh my gosh, is Reforge crashing out today? Let's go see if Reforge is crashing out. The question you should be asking is, why are you getting such one-sided coverage of this? From the same people who ignored the CFO's remarks from Xbox, who ignored Satya's remarks, who ignored very strong statements about change of strategy, we're going to put first-party games on platforms who were formerly considered competitors. You got a generic passing remark about shifting from hardware to platform, and then he elaborates on what he means. Creation, spreading the IP, growing the platform in the form of like growing their media footprint, growing their presence in the market. Some of that is obviously porting games to other platforms. That's not, you can't really deny that. But that's not what he was talking about. It's really interesting. Like, as soon as you read the entire context, you read the actual question that he was asked, you're like, it's very clear that his use of the word platform is not the way that people think it is. They think it means like, oh, they're shifting away from the console. They don't care about the console. Literally, just this morning, 5 minutes ago, somebody did that in my chat. Oh, he said they're shifting away from the console. No, he didn't. He didn't say that at all. But that's what you believe. I wonder why. I wonder why you think that. I wonder why you got a one-note piece of coverage. Eugene says that's the best part. People are trusting takes of talking heads who have been wrong every step of the way since the ZeniMax acquisition. Everything they've said has been wrong. That's what I'm saying. You're trusting people who, when ZeniMax was purchased, they were like, it's all about exclusives. When ABK was purchased, they were like, it's all about exclusives. And then the minute that Phil Spencer blew the dog whistle and he demonized exclusives, and the minute they started putting games on other platforms, it went from, that'll never happen, you're a lying pony, to, it's just these 4 games, let's get a wellness check on Reforge, to, oh, well, this is where the industry's going, everything's going everywhere, PlayStation's going to do the same thing, to the abysmally pathetic analysis that we got yesterday, where one sentence is all it takes for people to be like, oh yeah, this is where everything's going. We told you all games are going. All games are going. You read the context of the question, what was asked. You read the elaboration of what he meant by platform, and he's not saying one iota of what people are claiming he's saying. They're doing wishful thinking. Their brand abandoned everything that it said it was all about doing, and they were wrong every step of the way in their predictions, their analysis, their claims that, oh, the context of those statements is clearly ABK games. That's the level of analysis you got for the last 2 to 3 years, and it's the same people. The same people are doing the same thing today, and you're not asking the right question if you're not asking, why are they doing this? What's the motivation to ignore context, to obfuscate, to rip things apart so that you only get like little glimpses? I'll sit here in the chair. I'll read everything that was said to you. I'm not sitting here like shying away from this like, well, let's just read one part. No, I'll read the whole dadgum thing to you. If you don't see the fact that there has been a consistent and concerted effort to mislead people about these things, you're dreaming. And you want to turn me into some weird punching dummy for your thumbnails and your content? Go right ahead. That meta is going to die like every other meta, and then you're going to have to pick up the rubble of your content. I don't care about that. That's just distracting from the facts. The fact is, 40-something days ago, PlayStation made it very clear what they were doing with their gaming content, what their strategy was with porting, what their strategy was with other platforms. You don't come out 40 days later and like repudiate all of that. Shareholders would be alarmed by that. They'd be like, you just told us this 40 days ago. Yeah, Mafia is not going to be in Game of the Year talks, no. Those early trailers look so incredible, and then it started degrading over time, and it doesn't have great scores. Joker Quinn, thanks so much for gifting a member. I appreciate it so much. You have to understand that not 1 week ago, the same people that are covering this and giving you very narrow, one-sided interpretations, it's the same people who ran with that job posting and tried to convince the public it was some new thing, some smoking gun, some shift in strategy. Then the rubble settles and we learned that no, it's a position that was already in existence, and it was a team that already was in existence, and they got to fill the position because whoever it was left. Wasn't new, wasn't a new team, didn't represent a new effort. But those same people are telling you, oh yeah, here we go. I told you this was going to happen. PlayStation's going multi-plat. PlayStation's going publisher. Full slate, full slate, full slate, full slate, full slate. And it's all based on nonsense. It's based on a poor interpretation of one sentence, not looking at the larger context of what was the question that prompted him to say this. And when he elaborated on what he meant, because the word platform can mean a lot of different things. Because if we're honest, PlayStation doesn't really have a quote-unquote platform outside of the console. They don't have a launcher on PC. Many people have speculated maybe they want to do that. I think that's maybe possible. They have not once pushed ecosystem language. They've never pushed this notion before that they're trying to grow their platform. Like they want like the PlayStation ecosystem and platform to like be on other consoles and other spaces. They've never done that. So when he used the word platform, I was like, well, what does he mean? Because they don't talk like that. Then you look into the elaboration of what he was saying. He's talking about entertainment creation. He's talking about expanding the platform reach of their actual licensed IP or owned IP or those relationships. He's not talking about like, oh yeah, we definitely want to grow the ecosystem of PlayStation. You're going to start seeing us put our first-party games on platforms we formerly considered competitors. Like, let's just imagine a reality here. Let's just imagine that in the last 40 days, PlayStation decided to throw out everything that got them where they are, right? They decided to throw it all out, and they're like, yep, we're just going to start publishing our games everywhere. We're gonna start having our studios build games for PC, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch too, okay? Did they say anything about that? I've been very consistent on this. What did I say? I said, if they start to shift that strategy around, you know what they're going to do? They're going to speak it very loudly, very clearly. Why? Because they're going to have to budget for it. And when you start shifting that kind of budgetary money around and line items around, you got to explain it to the shareholders. If they right now were gearing up, hiring, and restructuring their studios for multi-platform parallel development, it would have been discussed in this earnings call. Do you see how lopsided the coverage is? You got one sentence. It's treated with this thoughtless, surface level analysis so they can be leveraged for clickbait on thumbnails and on articles and on tweets, because that's the currency of the world we live in now. Inch deep analysis to drive clicks. No one's like, well, what does he actually mean? Let's go and look and elaborate. Oh, were there any other signals during this earnings call that they're changing their strategy for game development, that they're changing their strategy for where they're going to ship their games? Has there been a single other indication in the earnings call to point to that? No? Okay, well then get your clicks, I guess. But what's going to continue to happen, and this is what I have always trusted and I will always believe in, the people running this type of analysis, you're not going to know their name in 5 years. These platforms that do this, these outlets that do this, they're going to be gone. Because they've been so bad at prediction and analysis and coverage, they're just going to keep losing their relevancy. Because eventually people are going to turn around and be like, hey, all that stuff that you said PlayStation was going to do, they didn't do. Remember when you saw a job posting and you decided to run with some narrative? Remember when you had one statement from a senior VP that you ripped from context, you ignored all the other stuff that he said, and you claimed that it meant this? Remember when you said all that? Yeah, none of that happened. It should already be happening right now. People should be saying, yeah, remember when you gave me assurances that Xbox would never put their games on competitors because Phil Spencer rather winsomely did an interview with Windows Central where he only talked about Game Pass, so the headline could say, we have no plans to put Game Pass on PlayStation and Nintendo, and he basically played the public like a fiddle. Do you remember when all the content creators, all the outlets, and all the people acted like that was the final word that needed to be said on it, the games were never going to go? Remember when all the people that did coverage of Satya Nadella's comments in January of 2024 and made assurances that he was clearly only talking about ABK? Do you remember that? Do you remember when all these content creators and all these outlets said, everybody calm down, it's just 4 games. If the big major titles go, well, then you can get out your pitchforks. All of that coverage, where's the accountability for how abysmal all that coverage was? Where? You're just going to continue to lap up the abysmal summaries? The slanted, narrow, one-sided coverage where they won't show you everything that was said. They'll show you one piece. Like, why continue to run? Oh, I lost my YouTube chat. It logged me out on my combined app. I was like, why is YouTube not talking anymore? There we go. Fixed it. Derek says, preach. They won't. There we go. I couldn't see what you guys were saying. You're in here cheering me on, and I was like, man, chat just went dead quiet because my app broke. Eugene says, there's no accountability. There's no accountability IRL with news organizations. Why would there be with gaming Twitter pundits? Deadeye Survivor says, I had to translate all the time in a game I play that had a trade system. The majority of the traders are Chinese. I can translate the info to English, and there's always discrepancies. Right. I got to thank Vedger Music for 24 months. Great debunking, Lono. Crazy that nobody else is covering this thing clearly. Thank you, Lono. Hit the like button and subscribe. Yeah, guys, hit that like button. We have almost 500 people hanging out. Let's get that like count up. And we've had a bit of a snafu with gifted members. We still need you guys to gift members and pay it forward, but what we really need is folks to pick up their own memberships or use the tip command in chat, and somebody already did it. That is extremely generous. I don't know who this is. Your name starts with a G. I don't want to shout you out, but they tipped $77. That is so generous. That's a pretty big need right now. I'm being told that Sony executives are restricted from knowing specifics of the business. They only know the larger picture. So a lot of what he was saying was a very zoomed out picture. Also, what he said to the translation comment that we just had about Chinese, you can translate his comments to literally mean the gaming business as a whole is doing that. He could just be observing that that's happening and that they're doing similar things. They're like, well, yeah, we're doing similar things. We are expanding beyond just being hardware-centric. We're thinking about the platform reach, and then he goes into detail about what he means. People don't want accountability. They want to be made to feel right and special. That's the secret sauce. Us intellectuals are the only ones who are looking for accuracy and consistency. I saw something recently, and that was an interesting thing that was said. The guy basically said, complete answer starts at 7:41, and yes, it is in English. Is it? I want an official English transcript is what I want. That's what I would like. An official English transcript. Can we get that? I don't want like the on-the-fly dub. We've been here before where like the on-the-fly dub is got mistakes. They literally came out and corrected one of them the one time. They literally did. They were like, you know, oh, hey, that's actually not correct. And they corrected verbiage. What was that? Was that the thing about Bungie? I feel like that was the thing about Bungie. It always comes out a couple of days later, says Eugene. Hang on one second. A 48. All right, hang on. No, that was Wukong. Oh, it was Wukong. Yeah, I obviously there could be some differences in the translation. By and large, his use of the word platform, I just don't think he's using it in the way that people are claiming. Somebody's saying, if I had to guess, the contraband news isn't going to be the last shoe to drop regarding Xbox this year. If you guys didn't see, it seems as though Xbox has pulled the funding on contraband. That's what it seems like. Hang on one second. We are going to be going through the news here in just a little while. We want to be able to kind of read through everything that way, so there's like an actual organized section of the video where I kind of like read through the news in a more formal way. And so that is something that we're going to be doing here shortly. Make sure you guys are smashing the like button. That's extremely helpful to what we do here. I don't know why this won't go through. Didn't they delete the trailer? Yeah, the trailer disappeared like last week, didn't it, FCAT? Yeah. Make sure you guys are smashing the like button. Try to get us to 200 likes. We only need like 24 more. Brett says, I missed the thing about the gifted memberships. What happened? So you can gift memberships with other currency, and I get way less USD from it because of the currency fluctuations of the globe right now. So I was gifting back thinking, oh, that was you, Space Jockey? Oh, thank you so much. You did a big super chat and a tip through the tip command. Thank you so much. If you guys type !tip in the chat, you can tip me directly. Basically, for the last 8 months, I have been harming myself financially, and I didn't know it because I wasn't really analyzing the money on the channel that closely because I don't like doing that. It's not good to do that. My gifting back was actually pretty harmful, and we didn't really notice it because things were going fine, but it was actually hurting us. Like, I suddenly was like, I can't get ahead. What's going on here? So nobody's to blame. I'm not mad at anybody, but if you guys want to kind of help rectify that, we can call it Operation Rectify. The best way to fix it, the best way to help fix it, is to pick up your own membership for $6, super chat, or use the tip command, and that can kind of help put some of that stuff, like, kind of rebalance some of the scales. It's a big bummer. I like gifting. We'll figure out a way to continue to have me gifting back. I owe you guys a single gifted right now. The super chats we can still do that with, because I can see on the back end how much I'm actually getting from super chats. I can't see that with gifted members, unfortunately. Same here on Purple. I mean, Purple, same thing goes. Use your primes, use your sub, gift to others. Those things still support, right? It still supports me to gift members with those other currencies. I just can't gift in return because I have no idea what currency they're using. Does that make sense? Gifting big member bombs is still incredibly helpful to what I do. I can't gift in return because I don't know what I'm getting from it. Somebody can gift like 20 members and they're giving me like $5 and I don't know it. Does that make sense? Like, the issue is YouTube doesn't give us enough control over the situation. Like, I can't see what I'm actually being given until like 48 hours later. Then I can see. So yeah, it was pretty, it hurt. It's not dire, it's not emergency, it's just like, oh frick, that sucks that we didn't know that was happening. Jack Garland with a $5 super chat tip says, I tip through super chat because I'm obnoxious. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, Battlefield 6 looks like it's doing really, really well. It sounds like if you turn off crossplay, you might have a better result than I did. I ended up in some sweaty lobbies with, like, I think some of those PC boys that their target acquisition was impressive. They were very good players. I am not a very good player, so I did not have fun. The truth is that Twitch has been robbed of many victories. Anyways, so how long? Yeah, we've been streaming for about an hour, so why don't we do this? Let me actually go through the news here. Lordy, thank you so much for gifting a member over there and putting Twitch back on the map here. It's 7-1. Obviously, the concern is like everybody's going to pump the brakes on gifting because they're like, oh, gifting doesn't help. No, gifting members still helps. Even if you're using another world currency, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about your currency or your contribution. You're still helping to grow the membership. You're still helping to grow this community. I just can no longer gift 5 every 25 because of what we learned. That's the only thing that we really have to change right now while we kind of reassess what we want to do. Thank you, Trey, for the $5 super chat. I'm so sick of Microsoft gamers running with these stupid narratives. They want PlayStation to do what Microsoft did just so they can say, look, they did this too. Pathetic. I kind of agree with you. So what's the best way to support you, says Brett. The absolute best way, if you're trying to tip, is to type !tip in the chat and use that link. And then you can leave a message. I'll shout you out. That is the best way. The next best ways are super chats, paying for your own membership, and obviously subbing and liking, right? If you're trying to actually like monetarily help, if that's what the question that you're asking, the tip command is the best. Followed by super chats. Super chats, I'm not in the dark. I know exactly what I'm getting because I don't have to wait on currency conversion like 48 hours later. Thank you, Frank, for a $5 super chat. Says, are you going to play Battlefield 6 again? I don't know. It's just, I'll play the campaign. It's just not really my bag. I'm not like a PvP guy. I'm not a multiplayer guy. I'm not particularly good at those games anymore. I play well enough to get in trouble because it's like, hey, you're not a potato. D Dizzle with a $5 super chat. There we go. You guys are going on a super chat train. Those kind of trains are honestly just as helpful. I will gift a member. There we go. I'll start another one. And Trey gifts a member, and Stone Spire does a super chat. Are you playing the new Mafia game today? I am playing the new Mafia game today. Thank you so much. And the gifted member from Trey, and then a member plus renewal from Darren. Thank you so much for 14 months, Darren. I appreciate it very much. All those things help. Thank you guys very, very much. I do not like putting those sorts of things before you, but I feel like it's fair to let you know, since so many of you have contributed and so many of us have been gifting members the last not just 8 months. It's actually been going on quite a bit longer than that. You guys are all a part of this, and I think it's fair for you to know kind of what happened. Thank you so much for renewing your gifted membership, Glenn. And thank you, Lordy, for hitting 2 months in a row. Says, we got you, homie. I appreciate it so much. I mean, I genuinely mean it. This is a fan-funded operation, and this was just sadly out of the frame, and we didn't know that it was happening. So, yeah. Xbox isn't starving. It's just changing how we see gaming going forward. Well, I think I could understand fans of Xbox being a little frustrated about more canceled games. I mean, let me run through the news here for you guys. Let me just get a. I'm gonna just put like something up on the screen so that we have it. I don't really have a trailer for all of these stories, but I'll put this up on for the first one. All right. Let's go here. There we go. So the question keeps coming up, is there going to be a Sony takeover at Bungie? Like, in case you missed it, there was a lot of things pointing to this happening. There were these sort of pages, landing pages and websites where PlayStation was listing Bungie as a PlayStation studio, and that is a little bit of a different classification because that contract really had them as sort of like an independent entity within the company. Now, many speculated this meant Bungie was going to kind of lose that independence, and they were going to become and get the label of a PlayStation studio. Now, before that even started, there were reports that, listen, the losing demand that they were having on Destiny, the profit and revenue loss, the layoffs, there were sort of these rumblings that PlayStation was going to step in and take over. There were also remarks from Hiroki Totoki that like they wanted to see more accountability at the company. They wanted the leadership to maybe be potentially restructured. Well, a recent Sony earnings call really makes it clear Bungie is being restructured, and they are shifting into becoming a PlayStation studio. The CFO said the following, quote, "Last year, structure of Bungie was reformed. Bungie is shifting to be part of PlayStation Studios. The direction is to become part of PlayStation Studios." So they're saying it twice, like this is where they are going. Okay, this leads to a whole host of questions. What does this mean for Bungie leadership specifically, right? They've got a lot of people at the company, but they've got a lot of people that left that said the leadership needs to change. We need to see a restructuring. We need to see all those things take new shape. Another major question is, does this mean we finally see Destiny 3 happening? If you're not aware, internally, they were never planning on doing a Destiny 3. As far as I could understand it, they were trying to build themselves roads away from Destiny. They were doing spin-up projects. They had a lot of incubation projects that Pete Parsons admitted was putting them into the red, because what essentially happened was they were kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. They were taking bandwidth away from Destiny 2 to spin up all of these projects, and they inadvertently hurt their cash cow. That was where most of their money came from. That's how they basically kept the lights on, was Destiny 2 remaining lucrative, and it started to suffer because quality went down. People were criticizing the new content as being very repetitious and samey because they had a lot of people that had moved to other projects. They were going to have more Destiny-related content is what we heard. Like there was something like Luke Smith and Noseworthy were working on that was going to be sort of like a third-person hero game where you played as heroes from the Destiny universe and would go out and do like monster hunting things. So it seemed like they did not want to build Destiny 3, which makes sense. They've kind of been in Destiny since prior to the launch of Destiny 1 in 2014. Well, that was like after like 5 or 6 years of production. So you got to think like 20, you know, even before that, you would have been dealing with like a 2006, 2007 timeline. So if you've been working on the game for closing in on 20 years, you might start to say, we don't really want to do this anymore. You know, even if they've only been working on, 15 years, that's still a long time to be working on a single piece of property. The other question hovering in the air is, well, if they don't want to work on Destiny, can PlayStation make them? Will PlayStation want to make them work on it? I've said, well, listen, fund Destiny 3, come up with a contract and fund it. Don't make them rely on Destiny 2. Put Destiny 2 on fumes. Start building Destiny 3. Ask your existing PlayStation studios, does anybody want to come work on Destiny 3? Ask anybody at Bungie, hey, do you want to go work at any of our other studios? Because you got a lot of talent you could shift around. There were people at Bend working on a live service game. Maybe they've got good ideas. Maybe they wanted to work on a live service shooter. And speaking of live service shooters, the other big question here is, what about Marathon? In this report, they indicated that Marathon will be out by March of 2026. It's not currently canceled. They did say it could still be canceled, which is kind of weird to say. I personally think Marathon is the lamest duck to ever attempt to launch. It's such a non-starter. Outside of Concord, I can't think of another game set up for more failure than Marathon. I have a video where I said this game was being set up for failure. I got a lot of criticism for that video, but it's aged very well. It seems like big changes are coming to Bungie. We're obviously going to have to wait and see what all this means for leadership and future IP, but that's where things stands right now. So that's that story. And we got to go with this other story. Let's get an image up here on the screen here. That way when I go to do my timestamps later, I know when I switched gears. No, I want large images. I want large images. That's pretty good. Okay. Big questions now surrounding PlayStation and moving away from a hardware-centric model. It's a little strange to hear a hardware company say they're moving away from a hardware-centric model, but context, I think, is actually very helpful here in seeing what exactly Sony's senior vice president said, but also remembering we are reading crude translations on Twitter. So what exactly was said? And again, we are relying on a translation. The person on Twitter even said they're the ones that translated this. We don't have official transcripts from Sony yet. Those usually come out a couple of days later, and they have had to often make corrections on what has been interpreted. This has happened in the past. Now, this is essentially what made the splash, the following quote. In the gaming business, we are moving away from a hardware-centric business model more to a platform business that expands the community and increases engagement. The most important part here is the use of the word platform, because the intention of that platform is, as he says, expand the community and increase engagement. Now, he elaborates on what he means. So if you just read that sentence, it might be pretty alarming. Like, oh, wow, this is a hardware company basically saying we're moving away from hardware. The additional context is very helpful. He goes on to say this in the tweet thread, quote, he says overall, Sony are making a shift to, quote, creation as a company, as the three segments of games, music, and pictures make up 60% of Sony's total revenue. For example, shifting from output devices like TVs to creation devices like digital cameras. Also, things like music streaming, music catalogs, Crunchyroll, and teaming up with Bandai Namco to create new entertainment and IP. In the gaming business, the shift towards a platform business is increasing. He says they are transitioning to entertainment creation to expand and to improve stability and profitability. So you can see there the context is so important. When he says they're shifting to platform business, increasing, like that's what they want to do, he's talking about using Bandai Namco, creating new entertainment, creating IP. He's speaking to expanding the platform of what they have within the media, what they have within the IP. He's not speaking about like an ecosystem shift. Keep in mind, 40-something days ago, both Herman Holst and Nishino said that the gaming strategy is not changing. I don't think the senior vice president of Sony, keep that in mind, this is not somebody at PlayStation, this is Sony corporate, is saying, well, we're shifting to expanding the platform, and he gives evidence of how they're doing that. Here's more from the tweet thread. Quote, for further context, the question that was asked from the media was that Sony are aggressively investing in IP content creation, such as investing in Bandai Namco. How do they evaluate those investment results so far, and is there a specific investment that caused them to revise their forecast upwards? The answer talked about the overall strategy for Sony shifting focus to creation, and with the games business, shift more focus to the platform business. Again, I really think in the realm of translation here, this is a passing remark, and then the evidence of how they're doing it is talking about expanding the platform of what they have. I don't think what he's saying is, we don't care about hardware anymore, we're just going to start publishing our games everywhere. That's how it's being interpreted by many people. And he doesn't elaborate and say that. In fact, when he elaborates and speaks to what platform means in his mind and in this context, has nothing to do with, well, the hardware is not really important and we're going to start putting our games everywhere. And the reason that we know this is, they just posted a bunch of great results. Everything's up, everything looks fantastic, and it's all because of how they've been handling their gaming division. I don't think you would jettison all of that and harm all that by being like, yeah, we don't care about hardware anymore, we're just going to start publishing games. There was also no indication in any other section where budgets have shifted. If in fact that's what he meant, if he meant they're shifting away from the hardware, they're going to just start shifting to putting their games everywhere, there'd be evidence in the budgets. You'd be reshaping and reforming your studios around parallel development. You'd be hiring for it. You'd be increasing your budgets. You'd be talking about timelines getting elongated. But with their plans to treat IP differently and media differently, there's another reason why he mentioned Crunchyroll. They're definitely invested in that as well, with TV shows like The Last of Us, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon. Movies and TV shows are another thing they're investing is extending the platform that they have. They're taking their IP and seeing it as a platform that's worthy of expansion. Now, obviously, this is related to porting games to PC. Shuhei Yoshida said that's like printing money, and they are taking Helldivers 2 to Xbox. And there's been speculation and even word from insiders that more is coming. But the speculation from that same person was that it'll likely just be live service games or smaller spin-offs. Now, they've already said this before as well, that they're shifting focus to MAU away from hardware. They do this about halfway through the gen, because there's actual comments right now of them saying that from 2017. So in 2017, they said this. They said the business model used to be B2B. Actually, let me start over. The business model used to be a B2B royalty model. Now it has shifted to a direct-to-consumer model. Hardware is important, but rather than hardware, the number of users is getting more important. Monthly average users, PS Plus subscriber numbers, and also how much time are they putting in using this console? The accent seems to be shifting from hardware to user base. That was halfway through the gen. That was in 2017. We're past the halfway point of this gen. That was like the last 3 years when they said that. We're entering like the last 3 or 4 years now. So it makes perfectly good sense that they would say, yeah, the shift is now to focus on MAU, not to focus on hardware. In other words, they said this 8 years ago, and the timing right now lines up with that as well. You also have to consider 40 days ago, Nishino and Herman Hull said what they said, but we also have Mark Cerny being outspoken about their efforts with Project Amethyst and AMD, the recent leaks from Moore's Law is Dead about the PlayStation 6. The lack of nuance in coverage about this makes it very easy to grab a job posting about a week or two ago. It turned out that that job position was an old position for an existing team, and they were trying to fill it because someone had left. People treated it like it was a brand new thing. It was a brand new change. It was a smoking gun. Now we have one quote with zero context from a senior VP being spun into this whole narrative. Just like the job posting, if you're getting coverage on these things and the reporting is lacking context, further elaboration, you have to ask yourself why you're getting such slanted or intentionally narrow coverage. As far as I can tell, PlayStation's not shifting to harm what I have praised them for, which is you have your first-party studios developing for primarily your box. As Herman Hull said, these games are meant to show off the hardware. I think it all works together. A lot of people are saying and treating this as an either or. Well, you're either going to be hardware centric or you're going to go do this thing over here. It's a both and. They can still be heavily invested in their hardware. They can still be heavily invested in the future of PlayStation and their studios and this relationship with AMD and machine learning. They want to be forward thinking in those realms because it makes them look very valuable to their shareholders. If they were completely moving away from hardware, I think their share value would have immediately took a massive nosedive because people would have said, what are you doing? This is what built this company and got it to where it is. This is what just posted all these amazing, revenue growths and profit growth and MAU growth. All those things are going up because of their efforts within the hardware space of PlayStation, as well as their publishing efforts and their relationships with second and third party. So if you're getting narrow coverage on this, I would just continue to ask that question. Why do people want to sort of wish this into existence? And they're straining to grab, one spurious remark, removing it from context, or one little job posting. Nothing explicitly is telling me they're changing strategy. The only thing they've explicitly stated about strategy is like 40-something days ago, they said it's not changing. So for now, I think this is where things are headed, and I think people are really overreacting on both sides. That's my take on it. This has been a disaster for Sony. Yeah, it's been a total disaster as all their numbers are up. Yeah. A $5 super chat from Cobra Kai says, I have the official translation from Sony. It directly says the Wii U is still the master race, followed by PC, then Ouya. Our goal is to reach that level. That's very good. That's very good. I got a $10 super chat tip from Joker Quinn. It's not much, but I wanted to help. That is extremely generous. Don't ever feel like you're not helping. Every little bit helps, man. Super chats help. Gifteds help. Using that exclamation point tip command helps. All those things help. The numbers are fake. The numbers are fake. Games are going to Xbox. Yes, let's port all games for a small player base who doesn't buy games. I mean, even Nate the Hate said he thinks it's going to be primarily live service games, and he thinks it's going to be primarily live service games. And like spin-offs. So like he's like, oh yeah, more is coming, but he doesn't have an answer as to what. He doesn't. And when he speculated on what it would be, he's like, yeah, it'll probably be live service games and spin-offs. It's not going to be major tentpole titles. Like even he doesn't see that happening, and he's the source of the one leak of like, oh yeah, more is coming. Now I do want to quickly do this. I'm not going to I'm not gonna like give you guys. I'm not gonna record this or anything. But I do need to give you guys the quick rundown. Mafia The Old Country has a 75 on Metacritic, and it's only, strangely enough, it's only got like PC reviews. I've not actually ever seen this happen before. Thank you, Noberto, with the VIP. Look at this pony trying to cover up for Sony Xbox butter. Much love, Honey. Here's to many more months. Thank you so much, Noberto. And let's try to actually hit the big one this week. Let's try to hit 1,000. We definitely need it. Thank you so much, Noberto. So let me just kind of give you guys a quick rundown of this. This isn't like super important, but you do need to know since we will be playing it today. This is the review breakdown of Mafia The Old Country. I'm not really sure what's going on. 58, all on PC, 2 Xbox, 2 PS5. This is very strange. This tells me they really limited the amount that they sent out, and the question would be why. Now, presently, Mafia The Old Country on PlayStation, it had a good score this morning when I checked. So I don't think the game is like trash on console or something. It's got a 4.84 after 1,500 reviews, and this is like the deluxe edition, but it should show the exact same if we go to the standard edition. Yeah, it's a 4.84. So I don't think it's like, I'm not quite sure what happened with the review copies, but I don't think it's like this major red flag that they were like trying to hide some like crappy version or something. Here, let me add one to the pile from the super chat confetti you guys have been making. You keep the super chats and the tips coming, man. I greatly appreciate it. And then there's a gifted there from Winged Wheel. Thank you so much, Mr. Winged Wheel. And that gets us to 823. Thank you so much. And then a 10 bomb comes in from Mr. Space Jockey, man. This guy has been pouring on the support today. I greatly appreciate it, man. That is insane. It is now 19-2. Twitch, it's time to act. It's time to kick it into high gear. Shiny Red Flag hit 4 months over there on Twitch. I forgot to add that one. Thank you so much for doing that. I was probably in a segment and wasn't able to look at chat when you did that. Thank you, Shiny Red Flag, for maintaining your membership. Stop gifting, it's okay. I'm okay doing single gifts every once in a while, Jamal, for the super chats, because again, that's me kind of paying it forward on the super chats. I'm okay doing that. A single gifted is what I'm doing. Like it's $5. I can definitely afford to do that when people are being that generous. What was hurting me is the 5 every 25. I was doing a $25 gift every 25, and the problem was I had no concept of what I was actually getting from those members. I saw people saying it's more stealth-based, unlike the other games. Maybe that's a big part of the scores. You gotta remember, Mafia is the only $50 game, so I'm not expecting it to light the world on fire with innovation and pushing other boundaries. Well, and I think maybe that's why it has a good score with the users, because they're like, yeah, it's a $50 game. You know, that makes it maybe a little bit more charitable in the score, you know. You're losing money, man. That good approach. Yeah, you know, it's what do they say? What did John Ralphio say in Parks and Rec? You got to spend money to make money. He was like, and we just kept spending money. Yeah. The Cope of Schrodinger. PlayStation doesn't have any games, but all the games are coming to Xbox, and Sony is doomed, but they're having the best generational revenue. That's exactly right. Now, 5 Bomb comes in from Behemoth. Thank you so much, Behemoth, for bumping the line to 839. I don't want anybody to feel bad about what happened. Behemoth, you left a really nice comment last night. Both Behemoth and MASH, anybody using non-American currency to gift, it is not your fault. You have been incredibly generous over the years to this channel. This was a stupid oversight, both on YouTube and my part. It was not anything intentional. I don't think anybody should feel bad. It was just a dumb accident. If I would have been sort of more obsessively combing over my numbers, I would have caught it. 8 months from I'm having chest pain. Thank you so much. And that gets us 10 away from the next milestone of 850. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very, very much. Doesn't it convert to USD? Well, it does convert to USD, but not in a way that's favorable to me. So, like, if someone uses another currency, instead of me getting like 70% of $100, I get like 70% of 80. It adds up. I went and I added it up, and it made perfect sense why multiple months it looked like I was getting shorted anywhere from $2,000 to sometimes like $4,000. It makes perfectly good sense. It's a bit of a bummer, and we will course correct, so nobody needs to freak out or be concerned. Thank you, Stone Spire, for gifting a member. He was a little too slow. He was going to try and bump the line to that even 840. He's hoping to see a 10 bomb slam it home to 850. Thank you so much, Stone Spire. All currencies are completely fine. There's just a couple where the conversion's really bad for me. It's great for y'all. It's great for y'all, but it's bad for me. It's just like I'm in the dark. I'm still being supported, so don't take that as me saying, oh, it's bad. It's that I'm completely in the dark. I don't know. I can't see it. I can see on a super chat. I can. You can super chat right now in another currency, and I can instantly see how much I get, how much the revenue goes up. I can also go to Google really quickly, and I can type in your currency and translate it if I need to. So, yeah. Would you rather super chats instead of gifted? Right now, we are primarily focusing on people using the tip command, exclamation point tip, or super chats. Those are the two best ways to support. And let me know if you use the tip command. That goes directly to me. I kind of agree with you, Jamal, but this has been going on for a while. I don't think they care, unfortunately. So, yeah. Yes, and upgrades. Yeah. Was that a blip or is your Chrome crashing? It wasn't on my end. It could have been YouTube acting up. Nobody else is saying anything, so probably just yours. Did you consider doing a PSA? What, like a post on the channel or something? Maybe, I don't know. I think we're just going to have to continue to talk about it and just say, hey, it's the nature. It's what we're in. It's what's going on. Anyways, we got to stay on subject here. We're only an hour and a half in. We got to stay on subject. So, if I put that in chat, what happens? Nightbot should be replying with a link for you. Yeah, there you go. So you just click that link. That's you tipping me directly. I don't want to do any of the off-site stuff with like Patreon and stuff, but like that's a way for you to kind of like say, hey man, Love the content. Like that's people, people do that. That's a way of just offering more direct support is all. People can put 100% into making a mid paint by numbers product, which is what COD's been for a few. Oh, you guys talking about COD versus Battlefield? Yeah, I'll be interested if Battlefield can kind of hold on to the momentum. It'd be kind of interesting if they're able to do it, because I do wonder if that surge of interest can sometimes be extremely helpful, but it can also come crashing down very quickly because people are like going back to their home games, It can also be huge, like when we saw that happen with like Marvel Rivals. Like they may be able to like really hold on to it. I think Marvel Rivals obviously took pretty big dips over the years, but I think that's just kind of to be expected. What's this guy saying? Wait and see, the landscape is changing. As the new generation comes in, the industry will change to adapt to them. This guy says, imagine being a 40 plus years pony. Anyone 30 and under are on PC, Nintendo phone, or whatever. It's the cheapest. The younger generation would rather watch streamers than play games. Their short attention spans won't let them. I'm not really sure what this guy's on about. I mean, I definitely think that I know personally people of the younger generation that enjoy their PlayStation and have bought a PlayStation. I don't think it's that sharp of a divide. There are definitely patterns in the younger generation that are worrying if you're like really wanting like a long tail of the gaming industry to do well. But I think what people keep forgetting is I game completely differently now than when I was a kid, and pretty much every kid goes through that. My kids right now primarily game on PlayStation and Xbox, and then they also play on their Switches, their Switch 2s. They don't really think of it the way that people think about it. They're not like, oh, I don't want that platform. You know what I mean? I don't think you get to like whatever the number was of shipped consoles. You don't get to the number of shipped consoles that PlayStation has gotten to if an entire generation is ignoring you. You also, again, have to remember that the younger generation is going to grow up and mature, and they're going to start doing different things. They're not always going to live in Fortnite. They're not always going to live on phones. Yo, my man Louis Love with 25 months says, love the content. And Stone Spire upgrades to a VIP Plus. Upgrades count as 2. So that's going to be 44, 844. Thank you so much, Stone Spire. I greatly appreciate it. Hang on. 27-4. Love you, bro. Appreciate you, Stone Spire. Anecdotally, I'm a 20-something. I've abandoned my console for PC. Yeah, like, I don't think you can say that an entire generation or an entire sector of the market is going to do a particular thing. I think what's always going to win is really, really good quality stuff. We've talked about this a lot lately. People talk about how, the big companies need to get back to the basics of like just building really good games, building really quality games, and they cite like Expedition 33 and others. And it's like, if we're going to continue to say that and like decry this horrible state of AAA, if that's the way of getting games back, into a better place and selling well, then that's all that really matters. Like if the platforms are making great games and delivering them in a timely manner, I don't think you're going to have people like abandoned entire platforms because of like generational divides. That again, I don't think generational divides in behavior are static. They're ever changing. I didn't see the Office sequel, no. Cobra Kai with a $5 super chat. Hope this helps. Don't want to see you have to resort to hot tub streams or OnlyFans. I don't want to have to resort to hot tub streams or OnlyFans either. I don't think I would make very good money. That would be probably pretty disastrous for us. Yeah. Thank you for the $5 super chat, though. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for over 200 likes. Thanks for a strong turnout on a Friday. Sometimes Fridays get a little rough, but the news kind of heated up for us, and so we have a lot to discuss. We're obviously not done. Lone Wolf says, as a member of Gen Z, all the people I know around my age and younger mostly play on console. Only a handful have PCs. Anecdotal, but still. That's what I'm saying. Like, my nephews were all about Fortnite and their Switch. and they were all about Xbox. And one of them plays a lot of Rainbow Six Siege on PC. And then what did they get? They got a PS5 because they wanted to play Spider-Man. They wanted to play Spider-Man 2. So you see, it's like this idea that, like, number one, exclusives don't make somebody buy a console. That's a lie perpetrated by the same people claiming that, like, this is where the industry's going. That's just perpetuating marketing. They're not perpetuating like an actual genuine view. They don't have that conviction. They're like, yeah, nobody really buys a console for exclusives. The people saying that know that that's not true. You will find plenty of people who buy consoles because they're like, I want to play that game. So I think that's just another false notion put out there. It's just repackaged marketing is all it is. Huge respect to Flair playing Rainbow Six Siege. I tried, ended up more frustrated. Yeah, he and his buddies were deep into it. Like, him and his school buddies were big on Rainbow Six Siege. I don't know if they're still playing, but they were. What kind does he have? It was a pre-built that his dad got for him, like, off of Amazon. You know, they didn't consult me in the matter, but that's okay. I would not be that helpful because I would be like, I don't know. Just make sure it's strong. Like, I would have gone to you guys, and then you guys would have been recommending something probably outside of their budget. But it gets the job done. I mean, he just, he plays that, and his other his brothers play like little indie Steam games and stuff. Always build your own. Don't buy pre-built. Or you could do what you think has the most value. You could do that. Is he happy with it, or does he covet more power? He doesn't really talk that much about it. I think, again, it gets the job done for him. He just wanted the game, a system so he could, like, play with his buds. Like, there's probably obviously limitations on it because it's a couple of years old at this point. So there's probably games and stuff he can't play. YouTube Spontaneous has a great OMG A Girl series where she takes her extras from Shaft and Rainbow Six Siege. By great, I mean it's soul shattering. Yeah, I bet it's pretty crushing to see the way they're treated in those environments. Not great. He's the majority of the market. He just wants a box to play PC games. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And if you could give, like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the oldest nephew is, like, really interested in the Xbox PC, like, console hybrid that we've heard about. Like, if it actually exists and comes to the market and it's not just some weird rumor, he'll be interested in it. He will. He will want that, I would bet. Because then he could just sit on his couch and play with his buds, Thank you so much. Scratch Versace says, is the tip command only on because you think it's PlayStation handle? No, the tip command works on YouTube as well. You can type it in the YouTube chat. You type !tip, and then there's a link. And you just go to that link. You can tip any amount, and you can leave me a message. You can do that while I'm streaming. You can do that while I'm not streaming. My wife has a pre-built because it was more convenient. Yeah, I'm sitting next to a pre-built that I stream on. I bought a pre-built back there to play games on. I had a much easier time doing that than the alternative. Yo, good morning, Mark Miller. Good morning, Feed. That's Feed in chat. Make sure you guys take a quick second and smash the like button. Thanks so much for being here. Make sure your subscriber is selected. Make sure you have your notifications set to all. Do all those things. And let me know what you guys think about the various topics. We talked about, Bungie is allegedly getting taken over by Sony. Sony had remarks about moving to a non-hardware centric strategy, moving to what they call a platform strategy, and we looked at the comments and we looked at the full context of the comments, which don't really line up with what people have been claiming about it. Not surprising. I think I end up building a computer a month, and I say buy pre-builts if that's it. Yeah, that's exactly right. Even people that build computers are like, yeah, pre-built's totally fine if that's what's going to get you the value and you feel like that's going to, like, streamline things for you. Pre-built peasant, says Hilly. I've never said that to anyone. Console interest is 100% a thing. We were Team Sega growing up. Zelda Ocarina of Time release, and I went out and bought a Nintendo 64. Same with Halo Combat Evolved. Same with T-Lu 2 and Tsushima. Yeah, I don't know where this notion comes from that people don't buy consoles because of exclusives. I tell you what they do. Stone Spire's looking for that 5 bomb. He bumps the line to 845. He's like, come on, somebody drop it. Let's round it out. Even though I'm not doing all those gifted backs, we can still go for those milestones and a member plus from 8-Bit Dad. Stone Spire just can't win today. Every time he's tried to round it out, hoping for a 5 bomb. Somebody honor Stone Spire and drop the 5 bomb. That's the second time today he's had his tee up corrupted. This is what I think happens, and this is a terrible way to argue. This is such an erroneous way to argue. They look at the most played games on PlayStation, and they wrongly conclude that that means nobody buys a console for exclusives. And I don't think that you can argue that. I don't. I think you're arguing incredibly backwards. That would be like saying, well, most of the stuff that people watch on Disney are the kids programming. Nobody signs up for Disney Plus for Star Wars. Like, that would be incredibly stupid to say. It would be demonstrably stupid. You would know, like, what are you talking about? Subscriber numbers surge whenever there's a new show. Andor viewership was incredibly high as it continued in its second season, right? If you could crunch the numbers and say that, well, more people boot up Disney Plus and watch, there's like a disproportionate, I'm just making this up, by the way, a disproportionate watch the children's programming, you wouldn't then conclude that, well, yeah, nobody signs up for Disney Plus for Star Wars. You'd be like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Obviously, people sign up for Disney Plus for Star Wars. It is equally as stupid to say, well, most of the people on PlayStation are spending most of their time in these handfuls of live service games. Therefore, nobody buys a PlayStation for exclusives. That's a stupid way to argue. I can't say it any other way. There's no logical connection there. There's no coherence to the thought at all. You could literally buy a PlayStation for exclusives like my nephews, and they're going to clock more time in Call of Duty. Why? Because they played Spider-Man once, put it down, but day to day, those games are built to clock more hours. Like, that's why the leap is so incredibly dumb. It's like you don't even understand what you're saying. You're basically saying, oh, well, these games that are designed for ongoing day-to-day, week-to-week engagement, they clock more hours than the big single-player tentpole exclusives. Therefore, nobody buys a PlayStation for an exclusive. It's like, if you said anything more dumb, you would just say herder and you would drool on yourself. It's like, that doesn't, there's no logical coherence to that argument at all. It's like, well, of course they clock more hours in Fortnite and Call of Duty. That's the way those games are built. You're going to play them for months and months and weeks and weeks. You're not going to do that with Spider-Man 2. So it's such a stupid comparison. It's like, well, of course they clock more hours. What do you mean? That's like, oh yeah, people put in, more time on the treadmill at the weight room than they spend in the locker room. So, we don't need locker rooms. Like, what? Like, of course they spend more time on the treadmill. The treadmill is designed for extended engagement as a form of workout. It's literally built for you to be on it for a while. It's not the same as another piece of equipment in the facility. Like, the actual single-player tentpole games, they're not built for that type of engagement. So they're never going to clock the same number of hours month to month that the live service games clock. 8-Bit Dad, thank you so much for double dipping. 34 months. This man's got 29 months on YouTube, and he's got 34 months on Purple. And then Dante says, herder drool with a 5-month resub. Thank you so much. We're at 848, and both platforms get the bump by 1. It's 32-5. You know what, Twitch? You guys are probably going to have an easier time competing now, because I think some of the gifting is going to slow down over there, and people are going to pivot to super chats and tips, which is a completely welcome thing. And that's going to make it easier on you guys, I think. Nick on Twitter says, isn't it funny that the most beloved gaming generations are the ones with the most exclusives, meaning everything prior to PS4, Xbox One, and that the only current one praised is truly worth owning today is the Switch. Gee, I wonder why that is. Our food analogy game has been weak recently. Okay, let's do this. So if you looked at the sales of, Coca-Cola at a McDonald's, and you saw it being a significantly higher amount of sales than that of double cheeseburgers, right? Or just cheeseburgers in general, you would never conclude and be like, well, nobody goes to McDonald's for cheeseburgers. See my last? If one person in your family convinces all of you to go to restaurant X because of one specific menu item, that exclusives has gotten a lot of related sales. Exactly. Yes, McDonald's and Coke is back on the menu, boys. We're back. If you crunch the numbers and you're like, oh, people spend more time in these live service games, therefore nobody's actually buying consoles for exclusives, you would get the same really, really bad data point from my nephews. They bought a PlayStation 5 because of an exclusive. If Spider-Man 2 was available everywhere, they would have had no reason to buy a PS5. They didn't have a reason to. They would have played it on their PC or they would have played it on their Series X. Now, this is prior to it being ported to PC. Remember that. This is like a year or so ago. Okay? So they literally couldn't get Spider-Man 2 anywhere else. It was the reason they bought a PS5. If you looked at their number of hours spent on the device, you would be like, oh, they play Call of Duty more. They must have just bought the PS5 for Call of Duty. And you would be 100% wrong. And that's the way a lot of these guys have been arguing, because they're more interested in pushing forward marketing talking points from Microsoft instead of having like actual analysis or, their own personal opinions. Thank you much, Lobo, for a Member Plus renewal. And that gets us to 849. My situation is fluid as I'm responsible for a lot, but I'll support to the extent that I can. Keep pushing. I appreciate that, Lobo. Listen, I know everybody can get into a rough spot and a tight spot. I myself found myself there recently, and I was freaking out, and we found out what the problem was. So you guys that continue to support and continue to help turn things around, I greatly appreciate it. We discovered something, and now we're course correcting, and you guys that are super chatting and using the tip command, that is ridiculously helpful. Wanting to play games on my personal platform of choice is all the reason I need to try to bully companies into less exclusivity, and even at their detriment, I'm fine with that for my sake. Well, right, but you're being like Wile E. Coyote, and you're chopping off the branch you're standing on to try to get to Roadrunner. You're like, oh, I'm fine if it hurts the companies. It's better for you. Really? So it's better for you when the companies are harmed and make less money, don't do as well, game quality goes down, and studios get closed down? Like, being like, yeah, I'm okay if this harms the companies is a literal self-own. Like, that's not good for you. This us versus them mentality is so backwards. Like, I'm okay if this all goes this way and it hurts the companies. I'm fine with that. What? That's not good for you. What do you mean? What are you talking about? That's like, oh, I'm so glad that we got all these games on Game Pass, and yet the acquisition from Microsoft has led to a bunch of studio closures and projects getting canceled. But I'm really glad I got all these games on Game Pass. Bro, just yapping, billion-dollar company, they'll be fine. Yeah, billion-dollar companies that have the ability to shut studios down and cancel projects so there's less talent and less product in the market for you, the consumer, to buy. Yeah, you're right. Microsoft is a billion-dollar company, probably trillion-dollar company, and yeah, they are totally fine. They're not in danger. And yet, they have taken product from you. There is less product coming to the market now because of what they've done. It's a symbiotic relationship, says Eugene. It's not good if the tapeworm extracts so much nutrients from the host that the host dies. I'm not going to put the company's interest over my own. They've shown time and time again only worrying about supporting them still don't give us what we want. They do what they want either way. Can you give an example of that? I wanted really good games and really good exclusives this gen. I got a bunch of that from PlayStation. Where do you feel like they haven't done that? And Rissick lands the plane on 850. Thank you so much, Rissick. Got us a 50 bomb away from 900. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Rissick. Wheezy says, I think that's always missed. Like, yeah, some guy might have a potato PC and a PS5 or a PS6 is better than his current PC, but he also has like $1,000 invested in the platform anyways. Just like I don't expect a guy to sell his console and switch to PC because of well-established libraries. I think it's weird to act like it's not the opposite for people to be well-invested libraries as well. Yeah, like everybody's just going to abandon PlayStation. And one of the things I've said about this, Wheezy, many, many times is a lot of the times in this conversation, what people don't realize is the guy with the potato PC, he might buy a PS5 just to add to his experience. He's not switching to PS5. Again, people are doing this with the statement from PlayStation. They can't think in any other situation than either or. You either play on PC or you play on PlayStation. Well, what about both and? He can both have thousands of dollars invested in his PC and a big, big library and also have a PS5. Both and is more common than either or. And I think a lot of people see everything in either or. They're like, well, the senior VP said that, so that means they're going to move away from hardware. No, it's in addition to their hardware. They're looking to expand their platform through increasing their creative capacities with IP and relationships like Bandai Namco. They're not talking about going ecosystem publisher strategy. You have to actually look at what was stated. But people think in either or. Well, you're either a this or you're a that. You're either focused on the hardware or you're a publisher. You're a third-party publisher, full slate. Like, they can't think in the nuance of like, well, maybe it's both and. I heard Sony's giving up the TV business to focus on cameras. Yeah, I mean, he made it sound like they're going to focus less on TVs and more on cameras. And it was like, I think he was just giving an example. I don't necessarily know if he was even saying they're going to do that. I'm a little late to the party, says Dante. The shift in strategy from PlayStation, is it something dramatic or is it just further undergoing what Sony has previously said? That's exactly what it is, Dante. It's statements they've made in the past. In 2017, they said almost identical things about shifting from hardware to focusing on MAU. They said this 8 years ago. And then they get halfway through this gen and they did it again. They're doing it again. They're like, the shift away from hardware, focus on MAU, focus on getting more money from each individual user. Why would I just game on PlayStation or PC? I don't understand the question. The mismanagement of their studios is what kills me. Why let Media Molecule waste their lives on Dreams? Why let Bluepoint work on a God of War live service? Why is Wolverine in development hell? I don't think we've established that Wolverine's in development hell. They already shipped 2 games this gen, brother. They Insomniac shipped Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and Spider-Man 2. Oh, and Miles Morales. Their cadence of delivery has been fantastic. I don't think there's evidence that Wolverine's in development hell. Weezy says, I'm saying that sometimes people are enfranchised in platforms because they've already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars already invested. I think it's a lot more dynamic, especially when people have potatoes. They either can't afford or an upgrade. Well, right, and that's why, Wheezy, they're focusing on making more money on each individual user on PlayStation, and they showed that chart. Right? They showed that chart of like how much the average user spends. And that right there is why I told people that's why PlayStation's doing, remakes and remasters on like Horizon Zero Dawn and Days Gone. They want this like all these new users they have, 20 to 30% are new users. They want them to be able to buy more games because when they buy more games, they do exactly what Wheezy's saying. They're like, well, I have this library. I don't want to leave. $5 super chat from Smooth Jazz. So we shouldn't mention Lono's shift in strategy from gifted super chats and tips. Love you, Lono. Hope this helps. That's right. That's right. Here at Reforge Gaming, we're having a bit of a shift in strategy. We're shifting away from gifting members to super chats and tips, and we might start centering the goals around that instead. That was the idea my friend had last night. Colin Moriarty seems to think that the leak hurt the dev cycle, which makes sense. Silver lining, the negative reaction caused them to go back to the drawing board, which could be a good thing. Oh, I could believe that. I don't know if that means it's in development hell, though. that would be a different categorization. You wouldn't say development hell. You would say they internally delayed it. Development hell is when the game is like stuck and they're not making progress, or they've had like reboots. I don't think they've rebooted Wolverine, but they might have gone back to the drawing board on the move sets and the combat or something. That doesn't mean they're rebooting the game like we've seen with other titles. They get rebooted and then eventually they just get canceled. We are focusing on a direct cash platform going forward and de-emphasizing a gifting methodology. That's right. That's right. Lono's going multi-plat. I'm out. That's right. That's right. Should have never gone multi-plat. I shouldn't do multi-streaming, you know? That was the beginning of the end. Development hell is how Duke Nukem Forever was announced and then was in grade 1 release, and it just turned 20, and I just turned 21. Yeah, I knew what you did. I corrected your sentence for you. They had a report that Sony saw Wolverine, didn't like it, and Insomniac had to go in and change a bunch of stuff. Really? I've not seen that reported anywhere. I mean, based on what I saw, it wouldn't surprise me in the least. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if they did it in some kind of an internal analysis of the project and they were like, yeah, this is not in great shape. We think you guys need to go back to the drawing board. You know? Like, I thought it looked fine for, like, early pre-alpha footage or, like, tech test footage, but, you know, supporting new shift in strategy at Reforge Gaming. Thank you so much. Dark Taco with a $10 super chat. We're going to keep making it rain confetti. Next super chat makes it rain confetti. Guys, thank you so much. You can either use super chats or you can use the tip command. You can type !tip in the chat. And a $20 super chat from Cobra Kai. This guy bringing the heat today says, I had hundreds of games over the years from Xbox and PlayStation, but I went to PC 2 years ago now. I was able to get 96% of those games on PC super cheap via CD keys for around $350. So I wouldn't let that scare you if you want to switch. I can appreciate like how forward thinking and intentional you were about that, Cobra Kai, but you got to understand something, brother. The average person is not going to do what you did. Think like the average consumer. Number one, they're not even going to know it's possible. Number two, if they know that it's possible, they're not going to want to do that. You're talking about a heavy upfront investment on the hardware itself, and then another $350 to like rebuild your library. Like the average person isn't doing that. They're like, no way, dude. You did, and you're great. You're happy with that choice. A lot of people wouldn't do that. That's my point. Whatever you got, PC or console, you're probably riding it until the end. Which is exactly why, Wheezy, with the amount of PlayStations sold, right? PlayStations shipped. Where are we now? What do they just confirm they shipped? 80 million shipped, okay? Somewhere between 20 and 30% of those are brand new users. That's a lot of freaking people. Like, let's take a high view of it, and let's say high estimate it's 30%. Okay, that means 24 million of the users are new. Now, I want you to think about something. According to Kepler and other insiders, Xbox Series X and S hasn't even hit 30 million yet. Now, just really think about the picture here. If there's roughly 24 million people new to PlayStation, just in new users alone, PlayStation is like gonna surpass the number of Series X's and S's sold. Track with what I'm saying. When this generation comes to an end, there will be more new people on PS5, new to PlayStation, more new than have all the people who bought a Series X or S added up. Yo, what's good, Mash? Hope all is good, and remember to like and subscribe. Appreciate you, Mash. Mash, I don't want you to feel like you've got to shy away either, brother. If you want to keep blessing people and you want to keep going nuts, don't stop. Your generosity deserves respect, admiration, and appreciation. Even though YouTube put us in a situation where we were in the dark, that's nobody's fault but YouTube's. So you guys that can do that, you guys that have like the whatever that currency is, United Arab Emirates or whatever, if you want to keep doing that, don't feel guilt, don't stop. If you want to stop doing that and you want to divert support through super chats or tips, that's fine too. Whatever you want to do, it all helps. It all helps. I will just no longer be doing the gifting, the 5 every 25 because it was harmful to me. And a 10 bomb comes in from Rissick. Like we don't want to lose our culture here, right? We're not losing our culture. We're not losing our community and how we think about things here. Even if I have to kind of adjust my own incentives, that's totally fine. I don't want to lose what we have here as a culture. You guys are all very generous to each other. Even if it's led to me, not being as successful as we would like to see when you're supporting your family, but that's not your problem. Our culture and our community here is more of my concern. Like if you feel like you're still fostering that community and that culture, that matters more than you worrying about but it doesn't support Lono as much. Don't worry about that. We'll figure out all that on the other side of it. We're not losing our culture. We're not losing our community. Lono is just losing his T-bones. This is correct. I haven't even bought any this year, and they're ribeyes, but thanks. Masher, the $14 super chat tip. I still take part of the blame. If it's too much of an issue, reach out to me and I'll try to rectify. Mash, I think that's really that just comes from a really kind place. You're a really sweet guy. I mean, I'm gonna leave that to you. My email's available. I'm leaving that to you. That's very sweet of you to say that. I'm not gonna initiate that. I'm gonna leave that ball in your court. That is not something I'm doing. But you are very sweet to say that. That's not sunk cost. You have actual assets that you own. You aren't chasing bad money with good. Oh, right. Once you're fully invested. I would say in general, once somebody has that library, especially once somebody is sort of thinking of this is primarily where I play. Like, let's say you were talking about the guy with Steam, right? Once that guy has that, I don't think he would ever leave, but he would certainly be like, oh, I'll buy a Switch 2, or I'll buy a PS6. Does that make sense? I don't think anybody at this point is really going to shift around. Something did happen. Brian Horton, who was publicly named as the creative director of Sony Insomniac's Marvel's Wolverine PS5 in 2021, has been off the project since the summer. Two sources familiar with the matter told GameFile. That was 4 years ago. Okay, so the game is now being helmed by Marcus Smith, creative director, a rep for Sony Interactive Entertainment confirmed. He will serve as Wolverine's new game director. It was previously announced that Cameron Christian will remain as the studio in a different role. Smith and Daly are a formidable new duo for Wolverine. They previously held creative director and game director roles, respectively, on Insomniac's acclaimed 2021 Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. The changes atop the Wolverine development team are the result of creative decisions around the game. The two sources told GameFile. SCI's rep declined to comment on the reason for the role change on Wolverine. It's okay, we need to watch later for the Mafia discussion. By the way, if you guys are trying to get into contact with me about anything, use the email command. There's a command in chat, !email, if you are trying to get into contact with me. That would be how you would do that. I'm not gonna seek out individual people like that, but you can contact me if you want to initiate some type of a discussion or something. And again, we have the tip command, we have the super chats. Like, we are already, I think, responding and putting things kind of back on an even keel. The number man with 24 months, that's a lot of months. I don't know what's going on, and I haven't been active on the channel the last few days, but you have my support. You've earned it from me. Thank you. The Cliff's Notes is you can gift a lot of members with certain currencies, and I get less USD from it, and I didn't know that, and I was hurting myself for a while, and we learned it, we're fixing it, and it's not a dire situation, but that's the Cliff's Notes. $20 from Dark Taco. Chris Raygrun mentioned on the newest Sacred Symbols he believes Insomniac could be struggling with Wolverine due to it being out of their wheelhouse. What shines in their games is traversal and cool gadgets. Logan has none. I could see that. Yeah. I could see that. You'd almost want to make his movement momentum based or something, and that might be hard to do. Like running, leaping, clawing the ground, clawing walls and stuff, and that might be difficult to make fun. Nobody wants to like climb a building like that. You'd almost, I wonder, Cobra Kai, you'd almost want to have it focus less on traversal and more on the combat, like brutal kills and stuff. And again, their wheelhouse is having really fun traversal, really fun gadgets, and that might be a tougher thing for them with Wolvie, because he's a very different, type of hero. Upgrade to Member Plus. Keep Lono's kids out of the spice mines. There you go. How is that new platform serving you better if you have tons of games you enjoy and would have to repurchase them if you fully switch? Refusing to do that is not sunk cost. Yeah, I would say it's a form of sunk cost, though, Eugene. It's a form of sunk cost. Like, the idea being like, I've got all this stuff I purchased. I don't think it's in development hell, but I don't think it's in good shape, at least in terms of development. Combat and how Logan uses his senses to track people down. Yeah. People mine coal in Kentucky. No reason for asking. Also, how are the child labor laws there? Again, unrelated. I would say it's a form of sunk cost. I think often we use sunk costs in sort of like a negative way, because it's like, well, like sunk cost fallacy of like, I'm going to keep going. I mean, the definition of sunk cost here says a sunk cost is a cost that has already been incurred and cannot be recovered. It's a past cost that is irrelevant to future decision making. In other words, it's money or resources that are already gone and won't be affected by content or future choices. I think in this context, though, you could say it does refer to stuff that you've already spent money on and you can't get that back. So you're like, well, because I've done that, I'm going to stay here. Like, all these things here do actually have a basis on future decision making. This is saying it's a past cost that's irrelevant to future decision making. That actually would mean maybe it isn't considered a sunk cost according to the basic definition, because it is affecting future decision making. You've accrued value, right? That would be like saying I invested in my roof, and then I'm also going to invest in my heating and air unit. Why? Well, because the cost that I've sunk into the home is affecting my decision to do more. This is saying past cost that's irrelevant to future decision making. Sunk cost fallacy is a phenomenon where a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they've invested heavily in it, even when it's clear that abandonment would be more beneficial. Yeah, so sunk cost fallacy wouldn't apply here, because it would be more costly and less beneficial for somebody to be like, well, I'm going to abandon my library and have to buy everything all over again. That would not be more beneficial to them. That would be more costly to them. If I spent $2,000 to $3,000 building a library, I don't know, I kind of don't want to build a new one. I can rationalize a Switch 2 because it'll never come, but I can't rationalize Xbox or PlayStation console anymore. I can wait. Right. And I would say there are a lot of consumers that can't say that last part. I can wait. I think there's a lot of people that are going to look at a PlayStation 6 and they're going to see like a brand new Spider-Man and they're going to be like, I can't wait. I'm buying. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this. We can talk about this now. This is relevant to what we're talking about. Do me a favor, guys, and quickly smash the like button. But Detective Seeds is claiming the following, and I shared my thoughts on this. He says PlayStation to PC ports will begin coming faster going forward. 6 months is the new aim, and PC is the targeted platform to port to. All right. Now, friend of the show, Game Logic, he stops by every now and again. He's gifted members, been very generous and kind. He's a very thoughtful guy. If you don't follow Game Logic on Twitter, you should. He spells logic with an IQ at the end instead of an IC. And real sharp guy. And very good analysis of these situations. All right. And he asks him, well, who's doing the work? And he says, I only know of Nixxes right now. Because you got Nixxes, Bluepoint, Iron Galaxy, Virtuous, Asper, probably Aspire. Or are they taking the hide out of the first-party studios? Now, I replied to this, and I said, if the source at Nixxes claiming this is correct, it is a direct threat to the quality of said PC ports. One of the fastest was Spider-Man 2, and it had quality issues at launch. This decision makes no sense unless they want to keep porting subpar ports to PC. I don't see, are they quadrupling their employee count? Right, Zubair. I know Detective Seeds has been reliable in the past. I don't think he's pulling something out of thin air. But this doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why you would do this. And number two, I don't know how you would equip these porting studios to do that. You're either going to have to hand them the game earlier, which goes against how they handle DLC. So if you've not noticed this, the PlayStation first-party studio games don't start the porting process until like after DLC has shipped. It's usually like a year or more after last piece of DLC has been delivered. This would be a complete change of that and a jettison of that strategy. You would then be handing the game over right away to like a Nixxes. Like, let's say they ship a brand new God of War Egypt. According to this, you'd immediately hand the game to Nixxes and be like, get this thing ready in 6 months for PC. If there's any planned DLC, if there's any planned anything, any new stuff like they did with Valhalla, or if there's stuff like Burning Shores for Horizon Forbidden West, all of that gets thrown out the window as, I guess, a later project. I don't think that's a reliable claim. I think something's getting lost in the shuffle. That doesn't make any sense. You're making it incredibly easy for a really large market to ignore your console, which, just track with me here. Under their current strategy, they have 20 to 30% new user acquisition for the PS5, okay? Those users are coming from somewhere. To posture that none of those users are PC people is stupid. I think that there's too many people. You're speaking to around 20 million people that bought a PlayStation 5 that have never been with PlayStation before. You're also speaking to a gigantic user base. The number of people who play games on Steam is ridiculously large. To claim that not a single person's doing that, I think is a stupid thing to claim. I think it's foolish. I think it's thoughtless. It's more driven by ideology and tribalism than thought and analysis, which means it should be considered to be a nonsensical thing. It shouldn't be taken serious. To be like, well, yeah, I know what every single person on the PC landscape would do, and I know that all the 20 plus million people who purchased PS5s as brand new consumers, yeah, none of them came from PC. I think that's a ludicrous claim. Even if it's a little less than half, 7 or 8 million people out of the 20-something million could literally be folks that primarily play on PC, right? So, granting that reality, that 20-something million people bought PS5s that were new under the current strategy, I don't really know why you would disrupt that. Under the current strategy, they hit a record number of MAUs. I don't know why you would disrupt that. And basically be like, hey, we don't need you to come over here. Now, Detective Seeds is replying to somebody and he's saying, capture MAUs. I don't believe the PC ports will be rushed as the PC porting studio will work closely during development. If you are putting out 2 to 3 first-party games a year, you could do that with Nixxes, keeping them busy. Now, Seeds could be right. This could be an executive-level directive that they're like, listen, we want MAU to keep going up. And that's a really short way of getting that result. Because the hype around, like, let's say a Spider-Man 3, 6 months later, it's still pretty high. People are still talking about it. It's still relevant. People are still, maybe even streaming it, and then all of a sudden you bring it to PC. Well, guess what? Its impact on MAU would be greater than if you waited like 18 months to 2 years. The concern that I would have about this, that's an executive level decision driven by one metric that will harm other metrics. I believe that'll give you a short-term benefit. Oh yeah, that'll increase MAU. And if the ports are not quality, if they're rushed, if you actually start sort of diluting what makes your brand appealing, which is, well, you got to go there to play Spider-Man. And if they're like, well, I mean, the PC audience is enormous. They're not going to bother. They're not going to mind waiting 6 months, especially considering most people have backlogs. Most people on Steam, flood their library with games whenever there's a sale, and they never play the games, right? They sit there and digitally collect dust. I know where you guys sleep, and I've seen your Steam libraries. It's freaking embarrassing, Zubair. Anyway, so you'll get short-term results, but I think long-term that would be damaging. I think it was damaging when Xbox did it. I think it would be damaging to say, we're going to dilute what has made our brand appealing. We're going to dilute and we're going to lower the potency of what we offer. And yeah, you'll get short-term results. And my concern would be that's driven by an executive who doesn't have a long-term goal. They have a short-term goal. Their short-term goal would get MAU as high as possible. Maybe you get some kind of a bonus kickback. Maybe you get some kind of a boost. And then you're like, I'm out. I'm going to retire now. Whenever I worked at AT&T, that was a common practice. There were leaders that would push initiatives and berate and pressure and negative reinforce to try to drive the sales and the revenue as high as they possibly could. And then they'd get their bonuses for getting things as high as possible, and they'd leave. And what they did was they inadvertently damaged the business because it led to high churn rate. People were quitting constantly. You had veteran, long-standing employees, vested employees walking because the conditions were terrible. Working under those conditions were awful. The same thing could be said here. You start going for the short-term benefit of, we just want to push MAU, and it's an executive level decision that actually ends up working against the long-term solvency and strength of PlayStation in the market. Well, they're not going to care because in 10 years, they'll be gone. Sony doesn't understand that their games on PC aren't such a mind-blowing thing anymore, and bringing them earlier won't help them, especially in quality. It shows a lack of confidence in their platform. No, I don't think so. I don't think it shows a lack of confidence in their platform. I think it shows that when executives see a quick route to increase a number, they will often take it. They'll be like, well, who cares? Yeah, who cares about that? Get them on PC faster. MAU will go higher. Zubair says, didn't they say they were changing their internal accounting of success to focus on MAU instead of units moved? That plus an exec with a bonus would lead to MAU fostering policies. That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Zubair. And I think that would be bad. I don't think that would be good. Now, the hope would be that maybe they do this for the back half of the gen because they're like, in the back half of the gen, pushing MAU matters a lot. And then when the PlayStation 6 launches, they would kind of recalibrate to say, we have to kind of go back to some of the basics. If you want to drive the sales of the PlayStation 6, you're going to need exclusives to last longer than 6 months. It's like a pendulum that would almost swing. It would be like, back half of the gen, you focus on MAUs, you increase the speed of PC ports. As you enter the PlayStation 6 gen, the pendulum swings back over here. And they're like, now we need to kind of reinvigorate that confidence in exclusives. We need to reinvigorate that confidence in the IP, and games exclusivity windows would be longer to then tell people buying a PlayStation 6 is worth it. It's risky because in the tail end of the PlayStation 5, you don't want people thinking, oh, it's not actually worth having a PlayStation. It's better off to go over there because larger library, freedom to upgrade the equipment in the future with like a modular upgrade, increased RAM, hard drive space, what have you. Oh, and I also get that huge Steam thing that they have over there. Great storefront. And then I just have to wait 6 months. Now, their confidence might be bolstered by the fact that they're anticipating seeing pretty significant growth patterns with their saturation of hardware, and it's going to be difficult for people to just up and leave PlayStation because why? They've been building a digital library this entire time. They could be essentially trusting that to be sticky enough and to be solvent enough and strong enough that people aren't going to be like, yeah, they're porting games to PC 6 months later, I'm out of here. They might be trusting that that's still going to keep people on the platform. PS6 will cease to exist. I'm not sure why you're saying that. I've not said anything that would make anybody think that. Nobody in chat said anything that would make anybody think that. Why would anybody think that it's going to not exist? I don't see people up and leaving the console for PC and trust that most people who have the console library established will stay. They're probably thinking that way, Wheeze. I could even see them saying this. Think of this from this perspective. There have been people saying that this has been the worst PlayStation gen and that when they started putting PlayStation games on PC, it was an enormous mistake. I engaged with this criticism recently. And do you remember what I said? I said, if porting games to PC was damaging the brand, why is the brand the strongest that it's ever been? Why do they have new user acquisition stronger than it's ever been? Why are they hitting record number MAUs? Why? Well, they're probably thinking the same thing. We've been putting games on PC for a while now. It didn't hurt us at all. Let's go over there faster. It's not going to hurt us. It'll make the guys upset on Twitter. It'll make folks on YouTube upset. I only care if it hurts the quality of the game. I don't care if I play Spider-Man 3 at launch, if it's great, if it's excellent, if I can tell they're tapping into the power of the PlayStation 6, if I can tell they leveraged innovation tech and they built it for PS6. It doesn't do a thing to me if people can play that 6 months later on PC. My concern would be you're going to get a bad port. That's why I tweeted what I tweeted. I was like, when they did that with Spider-Man 2, you got a sloppy port. That's all I've ever cared about. I've never once been like, oh, I don't know, dude, you put them games on PC, that's really bad. No, I celebrated Returnal. I celebrated Tsushima. I was in support of Helldivers 2 going to Xbox. I am still getting guys in the comment section of my Helldivers video on Xbox, and they're telling me that I'm seething and malding and angry. And I'm like, you have clearly been lied to by somebody somewhere. There's a video somewhere or a tweet somewhere where people are being convinced that I'm like really angry about Helldivers going to Xbox. And it's like, I was one of the first people to say I supported Helldivers going to Xbox because it's a live service game. I encouraged people to buy Tsushima and Returnal. I scolded hardcore PlayStation fans who were celebrating that The Last of Us Part 1 was a bad port. I said that that was stupid. So you can paint these fake pictures of me and fabricate stories and label me all this stuff. You can throw me on your thumbnails. It's all so see-through. Anybody that comes here and engages in these subjects would know, like, that dude's never cared about games going to PC. He's never cared about Helldivers 2 going to Xbox. You're lying. Like, which would really make you question, why would somebody be so willing to lie like that? Like, what else are they probably lying about? We've noticed that a lot recently, right? When YouTubers get caught lying about things, it sort of unravels like a sweater and they're lying about all kinds of things. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if a lot of the people that do that and a lot of people that make that content about me are lying about all kinds of stuff, and they'll probably get exposed at some point in the future. And, you know, justice always comes down on folks like this in its own way. So that's why I'm not going to concern myself with going out here and pulling up the videos and correcting. I'll just sit here in the chair and tell people, like, that's not true. I never said that. I've never felt that way. I don't care if Spider-Man 3 goes to PC 6 months later. If it's a bad port, I care. If it's a bad port, I care. I'm like, no. That's not how you treat your property. That's not how you treat your studios and your work. PlayStation Lifestyle is correcting everything and made your points, real facts. What are you talking about, Perfect Image? We all like different stuff and gaming platforms. I've been invested in cloud gaming technology and I love it. Just play games and have fun. Yeah, like if Spider-Man 3 delivers excellence and I play it and I love it and I'm like, that was a great experience. If 6 months later it goes to PC, if it's a good port, why do I care? Where are you seeing this perfect image? Is it a video? Is it an article? Where are you seeing this? Oh, 2 hours ago, they say no. Sony's statement doesn't mean PlayStation is going third party. Hang on. Here's what they're saying about it. And what comes as no surprise, a viral tweet misrepresented a Sony statement to suggest that PlayStation is going multi-platform. The confusion stems from an earnings call yesterday where the company talked about moving away from a hardware-centric business. Without the full quote, this was widely interpreted as Sony admitting that PlayStation is following Microsoft's footsteps. Not quite. Yeah, also keep in mind that literally like 40-something days ago, Nishino said, quote, they're not doing that. Right? We admit that we fell for the out-of-context tweet ourselves, but have since read the full quote, which was recorded by Seeking Alpha. What Sony really said is that it wants its entertainment businesses to not revolve solely around hardware and shift more towards creation. The complete, unedited statement can be read below. So, since I actually cover things exhaustively and not in a slanted, dishonest way, I read all of this to you. There's actually... Yeah, no, I read all this to you. I read the thing about Bandai, 60% of revenue. I read the things about TV devices, digital cameras. I read all this to you, and I read this to you as well. There's actually more here as well that right here I missed. I missed this part. There's even more that emphasizes my point. However, the music publishing and also acquisition of a music catalog and also acquisition of Crunchyroll, these are the areas where we are seeing growth. And as a portfolio, we have been expanding our businesses and also improving our profitability. Nowhere in the statement does Sony imply that PlayStation is going multi-platform or following Microsoft's footsteps. Will PlayStation eventually drop exclusives in favor of multi-platform games? Your guess is as good as ours. But to say that Sony confirmed recent rumors in this statement is categorically false. I completely agree with that breakdown. Completely agree. They're giving up TV. Yeah, if you read the statements to be like, oh, they're giving up on hardware, they're going third party, then they're also giving up on TV. Because they say something similar about like increasing by moving into creative process, and they reference TVs and digital cameras. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean they're moving away from TVs. Oh, ads. I paused them. Are they still coming? Why is Xbox dead every day of the week? I've never said Xbox is dead, but with PlayStation, people are upset and defend them. It's not going on here with PlayStation. Your question is framed in a way as if, well, because people say things like Xbox is dead every week, that means that this is different and people are just defending PlayStation. I mean, if people are on Twitter saying Xbox is dead, they might mean multiple different things. They'll be making more games. They don't just say they're making more games, though, Lorne. They're also saying they want to expand the reach of the IP into like other entertainment efforts. Like they're wanting to do more than just like, so when they're thinking platform, they're also thinking about like this thing they're doing with Bandai to get into more entertainment, to get into more creative. Like they're looking at their platform. They're, again, he's using the word platform, and what the console warriors are doing is they're like, aha, that word means this. But then when he elaborates on what he means, he very clearly is speaking broadly about the platform of what they're doing with creative endeavors and entertainment. He's not saying, oh yeah, we're moving away from console, we're going to go platform ecosystem strategy. If he meant that, he would have said things in that vein, and he doesn't. He says things within the vein of, oh, we're shifting more into creation. We've got this thing we're doing with Bandai. The examples he gives, it's very clear he's not saying that. Not saying you are. We have Dreamcast guy. I mean, invoking what somebody else is saying in my chat doesn't really serve a purpose. Come and dialogue with me. Don't be like, well, people are over here are saying this all the time. No, dialogue with me. Like, what does it matter what he's saying? people are going to do that. They're going to do that on Twitter. Like, if we're in here dialoguing, we'll dialogue with what I'm saying. We don't need to be like, well, so-and-so says Xbox is dead every week. Why aren't they saying that about PlayStation? I don't know. You'd have to go ask them. I can't speak to why somebody is or isn't saying anything. I told you guys that my commitment was that if the shareholders spoke to this, I would cover it. And that's exactly what I did today. I have not been compelled that the remarks made by the senior vice president are about what people are making them about. If the only way someone can argue their position is by ripping one sentence out of context and going, haha, look at what this means. If that's their argument's about as compelling as a matchbook. It's like, oh, okay. That's all you got? A sentence ripped from its context? If they're intentionally omitting and not reading the entirety of the quotation, as I did, then they have an agenda. And I don't think you should trust them. I'm sitting here telling you, I'm like, this is what they're saying. This is where they're going. They just said this 40 days ago. I don't see these things as being in contradiction with each other. If they were viewed as being in contradiction with each other, do you know what the shareholders would be saying? Yeah, hey, Nishino just said this 40 days ago. Why are you saying this? The shareholders would feel like they're getting jerked around. Anything happening tonight? A Friday night stream with me and Madam, yeah. I don't think we picked a game. If they felt that this guy just outlined a plan that refutes and repudiates what Nishino and Hulse just said 40 days ago, the shareholders would have said, now wait a minute. Just 40 days ago, Nishino says they're not changing strategy. Just 40 days ago, Herman Hulst said that the big tentpole titles are meant to show off the PS5. They're centering these things around the hardware. What you're saying is in contradiction. The reason that none of the shareholders felt that it was in contradiction is because it's not in contradiction. It's about a very particular effort of expanding the platform with respect to investments in IP. Do you want to know what's even missing from the PlayStation Lifestyle article? Is the elaboration from the source of all of this. When Genki elaborates on this on Twitter, this is the most glaring omission from a lot of the coverage out there. Dollars to donuts, you're not going to see this in a lot of the coverage out there. For further context, now remember, the tweet that kicked this all off has 1 million views. It has 1 million views. This has 50,000 views. So the context doesn't have any viewership. This thing up here, 1 million views. You go down here for context, 50,000. For further context, the question that was asked from the media was that Sony are aggressively investing in IP content creation, such as investing in Bandai Namco. How do they evaluate those investment results so far, and is there a specific investment that caused them to revise their forecast upwards? The answer talked about the overall strategy for Sony shifting focus to creation, and with the games business shift, more focus to the platform business. You see, the entirety of the context is not about shifting away from the console to publishing. It's about growing the platform through their shift in focus. And the question was about media and how they're aggressively investing in content creation. He literally says it here in the second elaboration. They're making a shift to creation as a company. For example, they're shifting from output devices like TVs into creation devices like digital cameras. Also things like music streaming, music catalogs, Crunchyroll, and teaming up with Bandai Namco to create entertainment and IP. In the gaming business, the shift towards the platform business is increasing. Do you see? The context of shifting to platform, when he's talking about platform, this is what he's talking about. He's not launching into a whole new thought. Oh yeah, they're shifting away from that hardware, man. They don't freaking care about that, even though they're investing big money into the partnership with AMD and Project Amethyst and Cerny. This has nothing to do with gaming expanding to other brands and but just about within their own ecosystem and platform. Think about it this way. Okay. They were asked directly about the strategy shift of Microsoft 40 days ago. And they've strongly said they are not pivoting to that strategy. You think 40 days later, a VP, a senior VP, generically talks about shifting from hardware to platform, and what he's actually talking about is a shift towards creation and expansion of the IP and expansion of entertainment. That's the context, which is that right there is why shareholders aren't freaking out. They're not like, oh my gosh, you guys just completely abandoned the strategy that you just told us 40 days ago that you're not changing, and now you're changing it? Yeah, I think I saw that. Somebody in the Discord put it there. PlayStation tweeted out new footage of Yote. Is this today? No, that's from July 10th. Hang on. I mean, we can go full screen with this. Is this new? Oh, golly, it's so smooth. They're really showing off the Kasurigama here. Little shuriken. Flaming arrow to the face. We got 3-piece here. Okay, I see you. Dadgum. Is that on the YouTube channel High Res? I would love to rewatch that. I would really like to rewatch that and see if do they have it on their YouTube channel? Like, I want to see that High Res. Let me see if I can affect the can you affect the quality on Twitter? Let's go not auto. Let's get sound here. Do we have sound? Okay. All right, here we go. So we got brand new footage of Ghosts of Yote, and it really showcases the Kasurigama, so I wanted to rewatch this and try and pick out any new stuff that's going on. How do I get the play controls to disappear? Is that not an option? Hang on. I don't think can you not get the player controls and the mouse to disappear on Twitter? Is that not possible? That's one of the reasons I like watching stuff on YouTube. Let's try that again. So we have brand new footage of Ghost of Yote showcasing the Kasurigama. I wanted to watch this again. Quality's okay. It's on Twitter, but I didn't want to like wait. Because of the you're saying move the mouse off to it. Man, oh man, I'm doing like multiple intros here. I did move the mouse off of it. Like where? Where am I supposed to put the mouse? It won't go away. She's running around shooting arrows and killing people so close to them and they don't react. What do you mean? Look how far she's running, Eugene. That's a stealth kill. Look how far away those guys are. There's a whole building. See, okay, see the building to her left? This entire building is blocking vision. She was all the way far that way. It's not potato AI. Look at how far she runs. She's all the way over here. Watch how much she travels. Okay? Those three guys are not anywhere near this. The AI looks bad. This guy's down here, a whole story down. So much noise and killing and no reactions. I think that's supposed to be a stealth takedown. Okay, right there is the building. All right, look to the left. This entire building is blocking those guys. They can't see any of this stuff going on. That's exactly how it is in Ghost of Tsushima. If you have areas where they can't see you and you're killing, they don't come running at all. They don't do that, especially if you're taking out a couple of these guys she takes out and there's no sound other than her blade. That in these games, they 100% don't count that as a break of stealth. They have to see you, or somebody has to shout out, "Oh, like they yell." Look how far she has now traveled. She's run all the way over here. These people are not connected to that other area of aggro. That's considered a stealth takedown, right? You got to suspend disbelief. Plenty of games you do this, right? You grab a guy and you go, and he goes, ugh, and they don't count that as a sound. Homie, you love The Last of Us Part 2. You literally choke out people and zombies in that game, and they're like, and like 5 feet away, some guy's like, that's a really great comic book. Like, come on. In The Last of Us Part 2, you're literally choking people out, and they're gurgling, and because it's considered a quote-unquote stealth takedown, the sounds they make are not counted against you. That's in, like, every game. That's a stealth takedown. He dies without shouting. He just goes, ugh. Stealth takedown. Look, they literally turned around because she was running and not sneaking. Who's there? Get ready to die. And they try to circle her, and she's using crowd control fire. And because she just engaged in, like, open combat, she's got guys closing in on her. I don't see anything that this AI doesn't look out of step with Tsushima at all. Alright, so we got brand new footage of Yote, and we're being told that the AI is stupid. I want to look at the Kasurigama, because it's shown off a lot in this footage. We're going to analyze if the AI is stupid. A lot of these takedowns, I think we're supposed to be interpreting them as stealth takedowns, because as long as the guys don't shout that they've seen you, it's considered a stealth takedown. So this, you are allowed to do this, and that would count as a stealth takedown. She'll do another one here in a minute, but this guy has line of sight, sees you, and then engages in combat. Now there's a building you can see there to her left, blocking sight lines of the guys on the other side. This right here, boom, boom. Now, even though that made noise, I believe that's being counted as a stealth takedown. Just like in The Last of Us Part 2, you're choking out somebody, they're making like gurgling, choking sounds, and they don't count that against you for detection. You have to suspend some disbelief in these games, like, right? You can't just be like, oh, yeah, the guy made a sound or my blade made a sound or there's blood everywhere. AC Shadows was the same way. If you took somebody out and they were like, ugh, they didn't count that against you, because you're going to notice there's a guy right over here who he's not alerted to that kill. That's a stealth takedown as well, because she kills him before he shouts. Same thing here. He goes to do something, she kills him too quickly. Sound, she made sound, they turn around, and she's using crowd control to keep them back. I don't think the AI is stupid here. And again, she just engaged in open combat, and so people are nearby are hearing and start approaching. You got a guy here, and there's a guy on her right now. And again, I think they're just trying to show off the Kasurigama's, like, usability. I think that's what they're trying to showcase here. Like, she uses the sword here, but she's very quick to switch. Look at the seamless switching there. The seamless switching there is really nice. So stealth, jump, takedown with the katana, and immediately into a Kasurigama grab and an execution. I love the seamless transitions here. So she swings, she does another stealth takedown. She's going to kind of push through the grass here. And this, again, that guy doesn't get to do anything, so that would be considered stealth. The only reason you have to engage this guy is because he sees you. He also has a Kasurigama. So she pushes forward, seemingly does some kind of a seamless assassination roll. I love the range that the Kasurigama is offering here. I also love how much she's able to do. She picked up that guy's spear off the ground. You see that? So there's a spear on the ground. It was flashing like a second ago. So you'll see it kind of flash as she rotates. I'm sorry, it didn't flash. The ground did that. She kicks it up in the air and then throws it at him. Flaming arrow to the face. And then they decide to show off some crowd control here. The way she's moving is so seamless. Oh, I wonder if that's a strategy for shield. So she shoots the shield with the fire arrow. It's weakened. Boom, and she breaks it with one hit. I like that. I was worried initially about the seamlessness, with her switching weapons. It seems really, really, really smooth. Like, it doesn't seem like you're going to get, like, stuck or, like, stuttery or, like, almost, like, syncopated. It seems to go from, like, one thing to the next. Like, she goes from shooting that flaming arrow to right back to the Kasurigama. I really, really like this. I think this game just looks better and better the more I see. I like it. I'm all about it, boys. Shield made out of wood. Yeah. I like it. I didn't see any evidence of, like, bad AI or poor AI. Obviously, they're trying to showcase the weapon, so they're not going to have her getting the crap kicked out of her. That wouldn't make for a very good video. I don't think that video is meant to show off the intelligence of the AI, but I also don't think there's evidence of the AI being particularly stupid, because a lot of what she's doing, you would consider those to be stealth takedowns. You could run around like that in the first game if you were strong enough. Well, yes, and thank you, D487, for renewing your member plus, getting us to 862. Thank you so much. We're making a final push on the member count. I appreciate you guys doing that. I probably should actually set up the new stream here. We are going to be diving into some Mafia The Old Country gameplay. Let's see here. Okay. All right, let me schedule this. If you guys are curious about Mafia The Old Country, I think we're all a little curious. It actually has a great score on the console. on the PS5. I will be playing on the Pro. But it didn't get great scores from the outlets, and it seemingly only got sent to people reviewing it on PC, which is a little strange. We're not really sure what the reasoning behind that was. So I'm not really sure what happened, but we're going to check it out. And so that's a great reason to stick around and don't go anywhere. You can see gameplay live on the channel on a pretty regular basis here. We like to showcase games day of. There wasn't much of a review roundup. It got a 75%, and it almost all the reviews were on PC, so there wasn't much to say other than... And it also has like a strong score on the PlayStation. I was showing people this earlier. It's got a 4.81. I mean, that's a really good score. That's a 96. I'm not really sure what the issue is. How is it faring on Steam? And it's an 82% on Steam. I don't know. It got a 75 for the people that reviewed it on PC for whatever reason. Not really sure what happened. Not really sure. Okay, we got that scheduled. Yeah, I like the use of fire on the shield. And yeah, to what you're saying, Eugene, it could totally be they have the game set to the easiest setting because they're just trying to show off the Kasurigama and like the stealth kills and stuff. Guys, really quickly, try to get me to 300 likes. We had such a great conversation. I wasn't paying attention at all to the like count. The like count is definitely suffering for the turnout that we had. I mean, we had over 500 people at one point in time. So we really got to make sure to get that like ratio pushed. And if you guys want to try and push that gifted membership number or your own number, your own memberships, I'm sorry, you can renew, you can upgrade, you can gift, you can get us to the next milestone. We are pushing for 900. Light Leap says, done. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. You guys come over and hit that like button. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Let's see here. What do we have? I wonder if anybody's even typing that out. Kusarigama. Did it log me out again? No, okay. All right. Okay. All right. We need 9 more likes. You guys are crushing it. You guys are crushing it. Thank you all for the incredible support lately. People using the tip command in super chats, especially. After what we learned yesterday, we are grateful to the people throwing that kind of support behind the channel. Okay. Yo, what's good, Dan? How are you? Everybody really, really quickly double check you've hit like. And I'll be spamming a link shortly for Mafia The Old Country gameplay. If you are curious about it, we're going to be diving in. If you're worried about spoilers, the first hour of these games is usually pretty straightforward. I would not imagine any major spoilers are going to be present in the game that early on. Okay. All right, I'm making it really easy to go to the new stream. Give me 1 second, though. I need to take a brief break before we jump into gameplay, all right? So, do all the things. We need 5 more likes. Quickly do it, and then I'll be right back, and we'll jump into gameplay. Thank you guys so much for the support of the channel. I'll be right back. Okay. All hail the chair. That's right. You guys, you can make it rain confetto with 2 more super chats. Well, actually, we should probably just get out of here so it's shorter than 3 hours. All right, you guys on Twitch don't need to do anything. I'll switch directories in just a second. There's a link to where we're headed. Thank you so much for checking out this video. This is going to be me diving in brand new to Mafia The Old Country gameplay. The game is getting good scores from the users, like an 82% on Steam and a strong score on the PlayStation 5. I'm going to be playing on the PlayStation 5 Pro, so if you're looking for Mafia The Old Country gameplay, I'm going to be diving in brand new right there on the standard everything, and I've got everything set. We're diving in. Make sure you hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'm going to end the previous stream and bring folks over with redirect.